This week, we played Baldur's Gate 3 Act 2. We are roughly halfway through this absolute fucking behemoth of a game. This time around, I did not make the intro like I did for the first one because, quite frankly, we had a 4 hour episode for Act 1, and I think that Act 2 is going to be just as long, even without stuff like that. So I'm absolutely 100% prepared to jump straight into gameplay because the thing that has been itching the back of my mind since 2-3 weeks or whatever, since the last time we talked about this game. Sesh, did you fuck around with new builds? How did it go?
So yeah, I'm still on like poopy difficulty. So I can't do like cross builds or whatever the fuck, and I don't really want to either because that sounds exhausting to figure out. I basically only switched Shadowheart into Monk, which is more fun than having just like a paladin and a cleric walk around and just like buff people. So I have her just kind of jump around and knock people over and shit and fuck them up. And yeah, it's a little bit better, but I wouldn't. It's not like life changing shit for me again because I think I'm just on explorer difficulty and shit. There is baby mode regardless.
That is fair. That's fair. What question do I want to start with? I mean, does anyone else have something like super strong they want to start with? I have a couple things, but if you guys have something, you can start.
Got nothing strong.
Uh, hmm, I think the thing I was looking at is maybe more narrative, even though I wrote it under gameplay.
I have one like that too. It might be the same one.
I think it just kind of works holistically for like the whole game almost. But yeah, sorry, Ben.
Yeah, I'm playing kind of boring where I'm kind of just playing stuff that I'm used to. And I don't know. It's a lot of options out because let's see. Am I doing anything new? I did make a druid on I made Lazelle into a druid, but I only used her literally once, so I can't really count that. I have Tavern Brawler, Warlock, which is not original. Yeah, I'm pretty much just doing like what everyone else has done a billion times, but I like it, so I don't know, it's comforting for me.
Yeah, I'm in a different boat. I like intentionally am building stuff that I've never played before, even though most of it is like heinously overpowered because both playthroughs I did before this, I just kind of winged it, did whatever. But yeah, in this one I'm playing Tavern Brawler, Dirge, Minthara is just going to be straight up like Divine Smite spamming Paladin. Asterion is like a Sword of Bards dual hand crossbow pew 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 guy, and Lazelle is just like a what's it called? Eldritch. I keep wanting to say Void Knight because there's some other game I was playing with Void
Is it
Knights.
Eldritch Knight?
It's Eldritch Knight, yeah, but I constantly want to call it Void Knight. But yeah, I think I might just make her just straight up 12 Void Knight.
Yeah, the only swap that I made from the last act was I changed my Tav from a fucking Oathbreaker Paladin to a Eldritch Knight. I think with one dip in Warlock to have Charisma be my main stat because it's my main character, so I want Charisma to be my main stat. Um, but yeah, I largely did that because I heard Eldritch Knight was really strong and it sounded really fun, and I already had a Blade Singer Wizard doing Shadowblade things, so double dipping on the Resonant Stone psychic vulnerability. It's good times.
I will say, like, of all the builds that I chose, like, all of them I chose for, like, power scaling purposes because I started the game on honor mode. I like, immediately lost it, but everyone talks about how broken School of Swords or whatever it is, School of Swords Bard with hand crossbow is, and I'm gonna be honest, I feel like Asterion is my weakest ass bitch. Like, I don't know what it is. He just does not like as much as people talk about how broken that build is. It is not reflected in what he is currently doing.
I mean, do you want me to tell you? Because that was definitely the strongest build that I ever had.
Yeah, like what did you do? Because like I've got like your gears hand crossbow and near misser on him, so I figure I've got like the two best in slot up to the end of Act Two. Uh, but he just doesn't like do anything other than like attack and do like mobile flourish or whatever.
I don't 100% remember what his damage output was like. I feel like it was generally pretty good as long as you're so like I think one of the big things you want to do is get the sharpshooter feat on him because it'll apply to all of the hand crossbow attacks, including the bonus actions. And then you get something to mitigate the penalty. So like something like Risky Ring is gonna like fucking double your 2-hit chance or some shit like that. Which helps your. I mean, that alone is a ton of DPR, right? Like that's minimum 10 per hit, and you're doing what, like 5 or 6 per round, assuming those hit, which they should with Risky Ring. And the big thing that makes that thing overpowered is, and I don't fully remember if this unlocks until Act 3, but there's a helm you can get. I think it's called Helm of Arcane Acuity in Act 2, which makes it so every single one of your weapon attacks raises your spell save DC, which means that everything will be failing your rolls, every single thing. It doesn't matter. Even if it has legendary resistance, it doesn't matter. And then the big thing with that is using Hypnotic Pattern, and you go into fights, and everything is hypnotized every single time.
Okay, that makes sense. It's not too far off of what I'm doing. It's just, I guess it's just that the relative damage output from everyone else, save for maybe Minthara, who again is divine smiting everything, but she makes up for like less damage than that with like a boatload of fucking utility. But like Tavern Brawler is obscene. And even Lae'zel as Eldritch Knight, just like walking up to things and going booming blade attack attack is still outputting like a fuck ton of damage every turn.
Yeah, I mean, there are many, many different builds. Sorry about the clicking. I will try to stop doing that. It's very habitual. But in any case, I feel like unless you guys really want to talk about builds, I want to talk about some of the like mechanical stuff to the narrative, which I'm putting under gameplay. We can talk about it in the narrative if you want, but for example, I kind of want to talk about Shadowheart's decision surrounding the Night Song and how that works mechanically, if you guys think it's appropriate here.
Yeah, it could. It's systematic, but it's also super lenient because I think that they also have like kind of like a failsafe. Well, maybe failsafe is the wrong word, but if you really feel strongly about the choice you want to make, you can kind of like override the systems. You know what I mean? You can kind of just force her to do what you want, unless that's not the case. But I think it is, right?
Well, technically, you could always force it because I believe you could just uh, take control of Shadowheart and then walk into the cutscene, and then you make the decision instead
Oh,
of her.
yeah, I didn't even think of that, but I meant like if you do it normally, where you don't do that.
Um,
Like, I'm not sure. Does she like ever disagree with you if you choose one of like the strictly good and evil choices?
Yes, that's part of why I wanted to talk about it because I think the like back end of how that decision works is really cool, and I don't know like everything about it because it's like pretty fucking complicated. But there are like 4 or 5 different factors that go into whether or not she decides to kill the Night Song. Uh, Number one is it's affected by approval. If your approval is at least like 40 or 50, I think, she'll pretty much always go with whatever you say to do in the cutscene. And if her approval is super high, then generally, if you tell her to just do her own thing, typically she's going to spare the Night Song. But that particular aspect is affected by what good and evil choices you've made. Like, I think if you purge the Grove, she is significantly more likely to kill the Night Song, as long as her approval isn't like super high. There are also certain triggers that I don't know off the top of my head that make it significantly more likely that she spares the Night Song. Like, yeah, I think there's 3 major factors, like I was talking about. I don't remember what they all are, but I believe one of them is whether or not you give her the noble stock, and it like cures her amnesia. You get a cutscene of her past, and I think that makes it like significantly more likely she spares the Night Song. But then there's also decisions around like whether or not you support her Shar worship, and then those get like inverted whether or not she approves of you. So, like, if you approve of her Shar worship, meaning she would be more likely to kill the Night Song, but she disapproves of you, then she's more likely to spare the Night Song. Would like all of these different things coming into play from Act 1 and 2 mechanically is fucking crazy to me that all of that is in there.
Yeah, so I will say that in my game, I have been like the most heinously, comically evil thing to ever walk Faerun. And I was curious, because like in every other playthrough, I've just like let her decide for herself. And both times she ended up sparing the Night Song. And I was curious if what you're saying was even true, because I was like, does she just always spare the Night Song
She
if
does
you let
not.
her decide?
She does not.
Yeah, and so even though I am like so fucking evil, and I think her approval is like decently high with me, she still wanted to spare the Night Song. I was like, no, I'm killing this bitch. Reload.
That's funny. What is her approval of you high?
It's not like super high, because I'm like maxing out Minthara and Asterion, which every so often will like piss off Shadowheart, but it's not like low. It's like I think it's above 40.
I think more importantly, how down are you with Shar?
I think I supported her with like all. I've at least been like inquisitive about it. I haven't like admonished her for it.
What I can definitely tell you is, I think I had a couple like an evil playthrough or two where, for whatever reason, she just fucking hated me, and all of those ones are when she killed the Night Song.
Yeah, I'm not sure because what happened in my playthrough is I just told her to fucking do it. Didn't give her a chance.
That was what I did after I reloaded. After I reloaded, and I was like, she was like fucking like vacillating about it, and I was just like, no, just kill this bitch, and she just fucking drove that spear right through her fucking stomach.
What happened in yours, Sesh?
Yeah, she just spared her. If she kills her, like, does she stay dead? Does like that spear have like some super properties that like kills her?
Oh.
Kills her?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, dude,
yeah, it
it's
becomes
so much
OP.
worse than that. It's so much worse than that. Because this is kind of related to another question that I wanted to ask. If you let her kill the Night Song, everyone at Last Light Inn dies. Every single
Yeah,
person.
so that's not necessarily true because they could already be dead.
They were already dead in my playthrough. I fucking murked all of them.
What if you kill him? Then like the
No,
Baldur?
you could just manually kill them.
No, I mean
But
if you kill the Night Song, well, how does that cascade? Does that have something to do with like the Night Song and
that's
Isabel are
Yeah,
tied together or
the
something?
the idea is Isabel is protecting Last Light. Isabel is getting her powers from the Night Song, who's
Gotcha.
getting them from
Oh.
Selûne.
Yeah.
Okay, I never knew that because this was the first time I ever did where I ever killed the Night Song and Isabel was already dead, which
Yeah.
is the other way you can purge Last Light super fast as you kill her because she's the one that's
Actually,
creating that shield, so the
Right.
shield's gone and everyone dies.
you know what was crazy in my playthrough is when you have the whole like showdown with like when I first got to the inn, I talked to Jahira. Jahira said to go talk to Isabel, and then what's his face, Flaming Fist Marcus was up there, and I thought I killed Isabel. I literally punched her to death, and I watched her HP go to 0, and I thought she was dead, and I thought Marcus flew off with her corpse, but she actually survived. But she got like kidnapped, and so obviously I then genocided everyone in Last Light Inn. And then after I thought she was dead, or maybe she really is
He
dead
was
in
he
this
was dead.
example.
So
Yeah,
did
she ends up
you
in the
got your
Merkle
reward,
fight.
right?
Yeah, and then I was like, oh wait, she's got like the fucking like green eyes and shit, so maybe she just was dead.
Yeah, if you give her to Ketheric, then I don't exactly know what he does to her, but she just gets like totally mind controlled from the whole
Yeah.
Merkle situation.
Yeah, it actually made me feel bad when she was like, "Yes, Daddy, everything you say is true." I was like, "Oh, that's uncomfortable."
Yeah, and like
Says
part of
that
the
the Ketheric?
question. Sorry.
He says that the Ketheric?
Yeah, she's in the last fight, like before you fight Merkel. She's a part of that whole
Yeah,
encounter.
Oh.
only if you go the evil way because you didn't see that because I assume you're doing good playthrough and Isabel's alive.
What What if they capture Isabel? Is it the same thing? Like if you fail that encounter?
That's a good question. I've
I
never.
I believe so. Like if you try to protect her, and I think this actually happened on my first playthrough, but I saved scummed. I think I saved scum in my first playthrough, but I saw what happened. Um, like Marcus will try to kill her and knock her out and take her body, and I'm pretty sure it plays out the same way as if you just give her to him.
Yeah,
in terms of her getting
so
MC'd.
I can tell you, I think, because in my first playthrough, I must have like fucked up royally because everyone at Last Light Inn pretty much, well, most people died there because Isabel gets kidnapped, and then I think after she gets kidnapped, this is from a good playthrough, or I was playing a good playthrough. Um, she is, I think she's in the last fight with Merkel, and she's like kind of like bound or something, like she's like incapacitated or like held personed basically. And you can just keep her alive during the fight, and like Night Song shows up and does shit and blah blah blah. But I think she's in the arena during the Merkel fight.
Does that result in everybody in Last Light In dies, you said?
Yeah, because she got kidnapped, which removed the shield, which meant I did not save all of the tieflings the first time I played the game.
Yeah, but that's part of what I wanted to ask surrounding the stakes of the Night Song and the Isabel fight. It is very easy and a good playthrough for everyone at Last Light Inn to die. That means, I believe, I could be wrong about this, but I think you can't finish Karlach's quest. Like fucking, I think Mole can die. No, Mole doesn't die there. But like, you have a ton of NPCs that just get absolutely bodied. You lose Jahira, all of this shit, and it can happen multiple times. How do you guys like that amount of stakes from semi-binary decisions that can happen?
I mean, I think that this is a game built upon a foundation of like impactful decisions, and like I just described what happened in my first playthrough, which was a fuck ton of people at Last Light In died, and yeah, I think what's his name, Dameron or whatever, the
Gammon.
blacksmith. Yeah, he died as fuck. So I never got to finish Karlach's quest. So Karlach did not have a very graceful ending in my first playthrough. Let's just say, uh, but I never really like thought ill about it because it's like there's consequences for your actions, and I wasn't able to save Isabel, and those were the consequences.
I think it would only be an issue if you couldn't save, like if you couldn't load saves on the fly.
Like if honor mode was forced on your first
Exactly.
playthrough.
But I think the fact that like you basically have to like let something like that happen, I think it's fine that there's that much like choice and branching and everything.
Do you guys think that this game has saves coming in mind because of things like that?
Yeah, the fact that they let you save and load during combat and dialogue, I think, is indicative of that. And
Yeah.
I'm kind of lukewarm on the whole thing because, and this isn't just from this game, but it's like kind of CRPGs as a whole, where um, if you talk to like a CRPG fan, they'll often say how choice and consequence is like the most important thing. But I feel like the way, because you can save scum, like choice and consequence doesn't actually exist. You just have choice. So it's always like, I don't know, like I don't feel strongly enough to say that like it should be like something like Dark Souls where basically your choices are always permanent. You just gotta live with it. Um, I think it's either or, and the way that they did it here, I think it is good to err on the side of just being lenient because the game's so fucking long, and like there's so many like interconnected systems that can just just go awry. And yeah, I guess ultimately it is for the best that you can just save scum. Yeah. Oh well, it is what it is.
I mean, I'm just glad that even with saves coming in mind for a lot of those major decisions, that like a lot of those decisions still echo down through the rest of the game. Like it may not be something that you realize, like saving a particular NPC, or like maybe you wanted to kill a particular NPC, but saves coming doesn't really become an option. So, like for example, on my first playthrough, um, I didn't really understand that at the end of the act, you were going to just straight up assault Moonrise Towers, and anyone there that you hadn't already killed is going to be there. So I didn't kill anybody going into the assault on Moonrise, and that combat was so fucking hard as a result. I can't even describe how difficult it was. It was insane. I think I lowered it to Explorer and it was still difficult. But now every single one of my playthroughs is like, okay, I'm going in there. I'm getting the gnolls to eat the lady. I'm going to kill these people in the cellar. I'm going to go into what's her name, the half orc lady. I'm going to go in there. Yeah, I'm going to go into her office, cast hold person on her outside of combat because it doesn't aggro to combat if she fails the save, or if she passes the save, rather. And then I'm just going to kill her, and then I don't have to deal with Flame Shield when I get to that encounter. And that's just the only reason I'm bringing that up is because it's an example where like save scumming doesn't really work in a first playthrough because you don't know about these things, and I think
Right.
that that's really cool.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
very much a case of like a min-maxed like subsequent playthrough because that's what I did in every playthrough that wasn't my very first one. Before I do the point of no return at Gauntlet of Shar, there are 0 people left alive in Moonrise Towers except for Ketheric because you can't kill him. But it's funny because you can get to the top, the rooftop, and kill all of his guards too. So that he's literally the only person in
oh,
the
that's funny.
tower when you get there at the end.
Yeah, I wish I knew all of what you guys are saying because my order of operations was as Dirge. I showed up. Karnas escorted me to Moonrise Towers. I like did everything that I could do in there. I recruited Minthara, and then I went to Last Light Inn. I talked to Jahira. I did everything I could in there. I immediately murdered every single one of them. And then from there, I went to the Gauntlet of Shar, and I did not realize that my actions in the Gauntlet of Shar were going to echo into eternity, meaning it was me versus everyone in Moonrise Towers. So I had to come up with some clever shit because those guards on honor mode are no fucking joke. When they divine smite you, that shit is gonna do like 60 damage sometimes. It is fucking nuts.
Also, because it's honor mode, a lot of them I think have Radiant Retort, which is a huge boner killer.
I
Yeah.
fucking hate that shit.
So I literally I fucking just stealthed past as much shit as I could. Like the fucking all-seeing eye things like became my least favorite enemy in the entire game as I was just trying to like jump behind guards in hide mode to fucking get up to Ketheric's fucking arena up top. And I just prayed to God that because I couldn't remember what happens after you beat Ketheric the first time. I was like, please don't make me have to go back down through Moonrise Towers. Because I couldn't remember if you had to go into the fucking dungeon to get back down to the fucking Mind Flayer part. But yeah, when you don't have an army from Last Light Inn backing you up in Moonrise Towers, that shit sucks.
Yeah, and I don't know if either of you guys did this for the evil side of things. Did either of you give the night song to Balthazar?
Because Last Light In was already purged before I got to Balthazar, but I did read about that, and it made me realize that even in an evil playthrough, there's like a lot of different ways that they give you to be evil.
Yeah,
Like
Yeah.
it
it's
really
crazy.
surprised me. Like,
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that decision where I was in my first evil playthrough. Like I said, evil McEvil face. I'm a Black Dragonborn necromancer. I am powered at any cost, maximal evil at all times. So I see another necromancer in Balthazar, and I'm like, oh yeah, we homies, we chill. I'm gonna give you the night song. That's cool. You better give me something in return. And then he fucking locks me up in like it just takes you into the pods into the Mind Flayer colony. I don't remember exactly how that cutscene goes down, but you just end up down there, I think, without having to fight Ketheric at all. And that was the best way. Like it was my favorite RP moment in any of my playthroughs because that happens. And this entire time playing through Act 1 and 2, I'm like, man, how is this game gonna make me hate the Cult of the Absolute if I'm just this hyper evil dude that will like use them as much as they want to use me? Oh, they imprisoned me after I gave them what they wanted. They're fucking they're getting incinerated. They are dying. And I thought that was a really clever from like a, I mean, that's kind of narrative, but I still think it's just really cool that they put it in.
When you do that, where does Balthazar end up ultimately? Like, where do you kill him, fight him, whatever?
It was so long ago. It's either you either don't fight him, which was weird, or you fight him in the room that you're locked in the pod in. I don't fully remember.
God, because if you were playing on honor mode and he was in that Merkel fight, it would be fucked up.
That would be insanity.
That's something that I learned. Is this an honor mode thing where basically, at least, and I noticed this with Balthazar specifically, because what I used to do in every other playthrough is that I would use the Susser dagger from Act 1 to just silence him and just kill him. But I don't know if it's just Balthazar or if it's every boss, but they just, on their turn, just immediately like cleanse any debuffs. Is that like an honor mode thing, or is that just him?
They're failing the saves when you do that stuff.
No, they like he definitely gets silenced, but then it becomes his turn, and then it shows like the word silenced above his head, and then like crosses out, showing that it is expiring, and then he just
Oh,
cast spells.
for a lot of them, it's because of legendary actions, which are like additional reactions that are specific to honor mode. That's what a lot of them are.
Yeah, I think
Get
that's
to
what
purge their
happens.
shit.
This is honor mode, so I don't think you can.
No. I'm saying so. Like, is the legendary action that they purge, or are you saying that legendary actions are like immune to silence?
I think that might be
It
one of his actions is just to, you
Purge
know,
off shit.
just ignore whatever
yeah.
you're doing, I guess.
Gotcha.
I think Balthazar specifically is he like goes incorporeal and immune to shit and something, but yeah, his is very obnoxious.
Yeah, my Balthazar fight was pretty funny because that guy, I don't know what the hell happened with his AI, but it went like absolutely dumb fuck supreme, and he just walked up to my tavern brawler and tried to stab me. That didn't work, and then he just got fucking obliterated in one turn.
Dude, I love when the AI does stupid shit like that. Like when it can basically exactly what you said. That didn't happen to me with Bald. I forgot what fight it was. It might have been the Isabel fight because I had to reload it because Isabel got killed like immediately because she got swarmed. And then like the second fight, the main guy just did something stupid as fuck and he just got fucking completely murked.
I was really scared in my playthrough with the Isabel fight because a lot of times she can just, I think she can just cast Sanctuary on herself, and if she decides not to do that, you're not gonna have a good time
Yeah, I
because
think
she
that's
will
what
just
happened.
get bodied. Yeah,
I think the first fight she didn't do that and just got swarmed by the little guys and died. And then the second fight she casted it and then like suddenly she just like wasn't dying and I was like, huh, that's weird. But then also that the
yeah.
main guy did dumb shit, so I just until right now figured that's why that fight went so easy the second time.
Yeah, I feel like there is a pretty drastic variance in the end result depending on the
Yeah.
how intelligent the AI decides to be.
Oh, without a doubt. It's fucking crazy that there's not some level of like normalization to it.
Yeah, and like there's a lot of solo playthroughs where like you don't have any companions, you just play with one character, and pretty much all of them just abuse stealth and how stealth works with AI. So like you shoot someone from stealth at max range and then go invisible and they forget that you existed like you're playing Thief and you just keep doing that for every encounter.
Yeah, I want to give a quick shout out to how fucked up honor mode is, by the way, because I was thinking all the way through Act 2, I was like, man, if I hadn't lost my playthrough on, what's that guy's name? The Observer, the Beholder in the Underdark, like I would have been good. I'd have been okay. I would have like lived through the crash, which I had thought I would have lost it there. Like I would have been cruising. Um, until I got to the first Ketheric fight. So, like I said before, I got really lucky navigating the Moonrise Towers because, like, literally everyone was still there, and I just had to, like, stealth my way up. And then I just fucking nuked down Radija, whatever the hell her name is, the necromancer up there. And then I was like, all right, well, let's go fight Ketheric. I click on the fucking staircase that goes up. You have the little cutscene with Ketheric, and I was like, all right, it's time to mow this fucker down. The first thing that happens in that fight is Karnus comes up behind me. I was like, what the fuck is he doing here? And then he just multi-attacks and immediately kills like whatever fucking party member he decides he wants to multi-attack on. So it was like, I would have been okay in honor mode. Oh no, I would not. This would have fucking murdered me.
Who's Karnus?
That
He's the
fucking
Drider that has a lantern if you want to get the
Oh
lantern
yeah,
that way.
got it.
yeah, and he spawns in that fucking fight with Ketheric. Like he
Wait,
just
if
shows
you don't
up.
kill him?
Yeah, if you don't, because I didn't kill him in my playthrough, because he escorted me to Moonrise Towers, because I'm on his side.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a important thing that Sesh
Oh.
wouldn't know. If you get to Act 2 through the mountain pass, then instead of the first people you find being the Harpers like you saw, the
Yeah.
first people you find is a group of absolutists, and you summon the Drider and Karnus, and it just escorts you to Moonrise.
Interesting, because yeah, like I ran into that guy and killed the fuck out of him.
I killed
Yeah,
him anyway.
same.
I killed him anyway because that the lantern buff that you get from freeing the fairy is just too good. So I broke character for that one thing, and I was like, I'll do literally one good thing because it was just too much quality of life not to do it.
Oh
That fairy
yeah,
fucking
that's
owns.
actually a complaint I have about Act Two. Is I wish that they had given you a better solution to the Shadow Curse. Because to me, the lantern was just fucking annoying. Because if people fall out of the AOE, it's like enter turn-based mode. God fucking damn it! I just have to exit and move them back where they need to be. I wish that. I mean, if I could scope creep the biggest scoped game of all fucking time, I wish that you could just like. I wish that there was just a quest line to cure the Shadow Curse, but barring that, I wish that like even the Blessing of Selune doesn't like always do what I wish it would do. To me, that's like the most annoying thing about Act Two by far is just literally navigating the fucking surface.
Wait, do you know about the fairy?
The fairy?
Yeah, so if
He
you
doesn't know
kill
about the fairy.
Karnus, if you kill Karnus, you can get his lantern, and you realize that like something is alive in it. And if you free it, the fairy will be like, "Okay, I'll just cast this blessing on you, and you can just ignore the curse entirely." And that's what I
Is
do
it?
in every playthrough.
Is that not the same thing as the Blessing of Selune? That
No,
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 is it not
that's
called
the same?
Pixie
Isabel's weak
Blessing.
ass shit. Isabel's
Yeah.
nothing compared
Oh
to the fairy.
fuck! I didn't know you. I knew that there was like a fairy inside of there, but I didn't. I just equipped the fucking lantern and walked around.
I was gonna say, yeah, if you free her, I think she's also like a fucking awesome character. She's like fucking sassy and funny.
Yeah, you like start examining the lantern, and it's like a fey pixie that you can't see, and it's, oh me, oh my, won't you please free me from my prison? And is like rhyming in every single one of her
Yeah.
lines. And then once you actually get her out of the lantern, she's like, oh, finally, you let me out of that stinking pit. It's fucking
Yeah, she
great.
talked about how she was smelling her own farts forever.
Yeah.
So
That's
good.
great. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah,
Shit, I wish I
so
knew about
good.
that.
Yeah, such a
It
good
is-
character. It's such a
It is
throwaway, too.
something like I absolutely love that that's in the game, but from like a broad scope, now that I played this game like 7 times, I appreciate that it's in the game because it trivializes the Shadow Curse, but I also don't have to engage with the Shadow Curse at all, which is kind of equally lame. I'm not sure. I'm conflicted.
I
No,
can
that
tell
shit
you-
sucks, dude. It's
Yeah,
good
but-
to not have to interact with that.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you, I don't even know Tom's like woes at all because like the first thing I did when I was down there basically was fucking like free that bitch from the lantern. Then yeah, just never even thought about it ever again.
Yeah, man, that shit's so fucking annoying because like if you don't immediately have a way to get back into like a light, because like what I had to do initially was I had Shadowheart cast like produce flame or some shit, and I just had to stand around this tiny little flame that Shadowheart was carrying in her hand, which was fucking annoying as hell, by the way. So, well, I guess I know what I'm doing in every subsequent playthrough from now on.
Yeah, I think in my first playthrough, I didn't have any light source. I forget exactly how it went, but I didn't have any light source, so I didn't have any like spell that could produce a light source, but I had a torch in my inventory, which has like a fucking meter of aura that it gives light around. So I'm just like barely coasting, walking through, tiptoeing through the Shadow Curse, and like I start walking a bit, and then a couple minutes later, I realize, wait, why are there only 3 people next to me? Oh god, fucking Shadowheart is all the way back there and she's stuck in the curse. Ah, shit.
That's
Yeah,
something. Oh wait, hold
literally
on.
me.
Was this not just me? And it's just Shadowheart. She would always just randomly get stuck, and I would have to manually control her and like move her back to like where the party is.
For me, that's been fucking Asterion in my playthrough. Like, just gets fucking confused and lost and, like, doesn't jump over something or whatever.
A lot of times the jumping has to do with their strength score.
Yeah.
I knew that. I will say one thing with this fairy thing is, first of all, I just feel dumb because like the game just straight up tells you like there's something inside of that
Yeah.
lantern, but I just never like bothered to check. But secondly, I carried it on my tavern brawler because I mean it's the face of the party, so it's just who I was controlling. But when I would get into combat with that thing, I wouldn't unequip it because if I unequipped it, I was gonna fucking die to the shadow curse. So I was just beating things to death with the lantern. And part of me wishes that beating things to death with the lantern would have broken it and broken the fairy free.
Oh, that would have been nice. Actually, that'd been pretty cool, but
That would be good.
For oh Jesus Christ again. Well, another tip for Thomas for future playthroughs, instead of equipping it, I believe you can equip it to like I forget what it's called. It's like a side slot and it's
Yeah,
just attached to your hip.
I thought I could do that, but for some reason it wasn't working unless it was like in my actual melee weapon slot. It was really weird because I could have sworn in previous playthroughs I did what you're talking about, but I don't know. Maybe I must have clicked something wrong or some shit. I don't know.
I could be wrong too. Maybe Tavern Brawler is just weird and it defaults to that slot if you don't have a weapon equipped. I'm not sure.
Damn, that's like my biggest complaint about Act 2, and it's just that I'm a dumbass.
I wouldn't say that you're a dumbass because I would have. Well, I'll talk about it in narrative because it's a part of a story I want to tell. Is that whole like freeing the fairy thing? So never mind.
Well,
I
I
would
mean,
say you're
I
kind
think
of a dumbass because it does, like you said, say like literally there's something inside that
Yeah,
lantern when you
no,
pick
it
it up.
absolutely tells you. Like I know that it tells you. I can remember when it tells me. I just didn't think to investigate further.
I think in my first playthrough, I just assumed it was some kind of like lore thing or whatever. I didn't even realize you could interact with it from the inventory. But I mean, I think that your broader complaint about Act 2 is still fair. Like, I don't understand why the aura on the lantern is so fucking minuscule. It's just annoying. Like,
Yeah.
you did the quest to get the thing. Why is it doing this?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things about Act 2 that are a little bit annoying. Like one being, I wish I could fucking lift the curse. And like I remember the first time you leave or I left Act 2 and it's like your tab says something to the effect of like I wish we could have solved the shadow curse before we left here. And that made me think like, wait, can I? No,
can't.
you fucking can't.
Well, you can, just not from a gameplay perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And that annoys me.
Yeah, it's more of just like an ending slide than anything. Just
Yeah.
for that part.
Yeah, because like I know that like the Night Song or Alan or whatever her name is will like fucking fly through the air like Mewtwo or whatever and fucking like bring the light back, but that does not solve the problem I have, which is not knowing I could have a fairy that would solve all of my woes.
Yeah, I never really understood why after freeing Aelin, it doesn't at least like cure the easy parts of the Shadow Curse and make the hard part of the Shadow Curse and Wraithwind the easy part. You know, like downgrade everything.
I thought that's what she was doing when she was flying across the sky, and then like when I went to leave, it was like, I wish we could have done something to do the shadow curse, and I was like, ah, shit, and then I had to go back and do the stupid quest, which kind of like fucked with the game's logic of like what it thought was done and shit.
I think I have this memory from when I first played the game too, where I had a similar situation as Thomas. I didn't know about the fairy. I had a monk for my main character, and I had the lantern on my monk because it's my main character. And after you free the Night Song, if I'm remembering correctly, it ports you like directly outside of Moonrise next to that fast travel point. And or you could just like port there from the Gauntlet of Shar or whatever. And I thought it was so fucking lame. I just freed the Night Song. I watched this quest of her literally restoring the light back, and then I'm outside of Moonrise Towers, and turn base mode. You're in the bad curse.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's stupid for sure.
I have a question for you guys. What do you think of like narrative or characters or whatever notwithstanding, the side quests in Act 2 versus Act 1.
Do you count the three thorns as a side quest?
Sure, for the purpose of the discussion.
Because I fucking love all three of those. I absolutely love those guys. I will go out of my way to do those, not even just for the experience. The experience helps, but just because I really like all their cutscenes.
What are the three thorns?
It's the
it's the
the
gold
really
bitch,
fat,
the other guy. Yeah,
yeah,
okay, yeah, gotcha.
and the doctor.
I
Yep.
didn't realize till right now that those were all thorns. Yeah, the doctor I got to kill himself by just like clicking dialogue options.
Yeah, I've done that. I've never actually fought that guy. I've done that every time I've gone in the House of Healing or whatever.
Yeah, I didn't even save scum. I just like clicked that one and then it was like an 18 check, but I have +8 to charisma, so then it just like passed it easily. And then I was like, oh, he's just fucking dead now. Okay.
I have a follow up question for that, but I want to get through Thomas's question first.
Yeah, so again, just like the overall like frequency and quality of the side quests in Act 2 versus Act 1. I will say I think Act 1 like shits on Act 2 as far as like the overall just quality of the actual like distraction content. The critical path in Act 2 is a lot better, but the side quests in Act 1 are so much better, IMO.
Yeah, like what even are the side quests in Act 2? Like I can think of a couple small ones. I mean, the big one I guess is freeing all the prisoners from Moonrise. That one's really cool. But there's like what other ones even are there?
Well, I didn't
but
experience it in this playthrough because I'm evil, but if you help Halcyon uh, cleanse the curse, right? That's a side quest.
Yeah, that one's pretty good.
there's the gnomes in the dungeon.
Oh, I like that one for a different reason because I use that as an excuse to get to Last Light In and to get more people there so that more people can die.
I just want to say without future spoilers, the fucking AI for those prisoners in Moonrise is so goddamn dumb. Because the way I did it is I just killed all of the guards that are like in the basement area, and then you can hit the lever that frees all of them instead of like passing him a hammer, and he digs open the back wall. And for whatever reason, they are so insane that instead of like going through the rock wall to where this ship where they can just sail straight to Last Light is, they run out of their prisons, and they don't go out through the main door, which would be hilarious, but they go out through the side door where all of the other guards are, like where it's outside and there's a little port, and they all just run through there and it starts combat, and I go out there, I'm like, guys, what the fuck are you doing? But I can say I had the best outcome to that, and this is the reason why I said without spoilers, because the only person that died when that happened to me was Wolbrin, so we're good.
That's funny.
If you don't, so like if they do that and then you didn't go outside with them, would they just die?
Think so, yes.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
That's fucked up. Because yeah, for me, I killed the warden and everybody on the floor, but then I didn't know the lever you were talking about, so then I gave them the hammer, and then yeah, they went out the back and everything. But like, the game didn't. I feel like I've like did shit and like I don't think you're supposed to kill all the guards and then let them get out the back, because like I think then the guards are supposed to be like pissed when you let them out. Like when they get out and you're supposed to fight the guards then, but they didn't. So like it was just kind of like a weird sequencing of like I thought I broke the game for a little bit because I fast traveled to Last Light In after I did that and they weren't there, but then I went back and I think that they just didn't go to the boat yet or something. So then I had then I fast traveled back.
Yeah, because I think the intended way is that you can actually just go on the boat with them.
Oh, yeah, I didn't do that.
Yeah. And then you're like the emissary to help bring them into Last Light, even though they like just escaped the Absolute and could be infected or whatever.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, for me, they were just back. And then also, like, Wolbrin was broken. Because, like, I talked to him and he's like, talk to me when we're back at Last Light In. And he's sitting at a fucking table at Last Light In. So I was like, okay, I think I broke the quest.
Yeah, that sounds pretty broken.
I think there are a couple of bugs related to that. Related to, like, anyone that you free from Moonrise Towers and comes back through that method on the boat. Because I remember my sister had the same issue, not with Wolbrin, but with the tiefling that gives you the really good reward, Alfira. Like for some reason, the flag to like make her give you the reward, which is never flip. She would just keep on saying like, "Did you save my friends yet?" It's like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, they're right
They're
there,
all
you
right
dumb
there.
bitch."
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
Something I noticed in this playthrough. Are you sure you saved the one that she wanted you to save? Did
I
it
think
like? Did any of
so.
them die?
Well, this was a long time ago, this playthrough that I'm talking about, but I think that eventually what happened was like so when they get off the boat, like depending on their pathing, you might have to like manually pick up people and like throw them in the direction of the end so that they go to the right spot and trigger the flag.
And the only reason I ask because I think it's just another cool example, like what I was describing, where only Wolverine died. Like it was really interesting to me that there's like 4 or 5 different quests that lead you to free the prisoners in Moonrise, and they can all be affected depending on if like just Wolverine dies or if Alfrira's lady dies. Like I think those quests might just get marked as failed or they don't get followed up on in Act 3. And it's just another cool example of like both reactivity and just a lot of depth to those individual encounters.
Yeah, you indeed. I don't know if it like fails until you get to the end of the act, but you cannot complete them.
Yeah, like I could see that being frustrating, but I think it's also really cool that it rewards or punishes you for
Yeah,
either being careful or not being
and
careful.
yeah, and it's not the worst because you still get the partial rewards from the people you did save. You just don't get like the full
Right.
EXP reward from the quest being crossed off in your journal.
Kind of want to ask here instead of in the awards. What was your guys' favorite encounter, like combat encounter? I'm including the Thorns with this.
Just like anything.
Yeah, like my favorite combat was actually, I think I only did it my first playthrough, but I think the showdown with Balthazar and the Shadowfell is really cool if you do that.
I've never seen
That's
that because
good.
I've always killed him the moment I met him. But
Yeah,
I
wait,
do know that
Really?
you can fight
yeah,
him there.
same. You could fight him in the Shadowfell. What, like he just like gets in
Yeah.
there at the
I've
same time as you do?
literally only ever fought him in the Shadowfell. That's crazy.
Yeah,
I
you
I've
can just
always
body
kill
him.
him.
It's just I don't know why, but every time in every playthrough I've ever done, every time I met him, he just gives off that aura of being like, "This is some guy that I should just kill now."
Yeah.
I want his fucking bell. I get that bell every fucking
No,
time.
unfortunately, the bell goes away after you kill him and his brother, who's standing right there anyway.
Did you I meant to do this in this playthrough and I just totally forgot because you have to do it before you have dialogue with him, I think. But have you ever looted the Mommy Dearest potion and then talked to him? There's like a potion behind him on a bookshelf that will give you unique dialogue options where you can start interrogating him about his family.
What the
I
hell?
did not know this.
He does
That's fucked up.
it does not make him happy.
You guys might know this one, but you can do the same thing for Ketheric.
Oh, I knew that. If you sneak into his room and you find like his diary or like some
Yeah.
letter from his wife,
Yep, just like following the pattern of all of the other Thorms that you find throughout Wraithwind. If you find that journal, you can just tell Ketheric to unalive himself, and he does it. Which actually
Really?
makes yeah, and it actually makes the final encounter way fucking harder because that's where it happens. He just is like, "No, I give up. You defeated me," but he jumps into the pit to kill himself, which immediately turns him into the Avatar of Merkel. So now you have to deal with the Avatar of Merkel and the Mind Flayer, and you have to free Night Song all the same instead of separating it out. It
so
makes it
Oh
way harder.
Jesus.
yeah, to tie it back to your favorite, to your question of or your pseudo award of favorite encounter, that the Merkel fight was my favorite encounter, even though I lowered the difficulty. But I really did like the honor mechanics. I just thought it was overtuned, where like he just heals himself way too damn much. And I know that like you're supposed to bring. I don't know if you're expected to, but obviously you need something like Bone Chill or Arrows of Ilmater, something that has an effect that says like the target can't heal this turn. But it was so annoying because like I would have my bard shoot the arrow of Ilmater, it hits, it says he cannot heal, he's chilled or whatever. By the way, that he in in auto mode he emanates an aura that says you can't heal, which is the worst thing ever. But that's besides the point. Um, the problem is that effect, that anti-healing effect on him lasts until his turn. So let's say the bard shoots him with arrow, he cannot heal for like the next like 10 people that go, so you can hit him a bunch of times. But if he has his turn and there are those necromite minions that have their turns after him, his turn is like the beginning of the expiration of that effect. So those necromites afterwards will heal him, and then he goes back to full health. And that's the point where I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna lower the difficulty. So I liked what they did. I liked that challenge, and I know that there's lots of people that would find even that very easy. But for me, like that was like the breaking point, and I was just like, yeah, I gotta lower the difficulty.
For me, the hard part of that fight, that's also my favorite encounter, by the way, because I just think it's just so fucking cool. But uh, the healing was annoying, but I felt like I was doing a pretty good job just kind of like sustaining in that fight because I was still using like Omega Healer Shadowheart who could like just kind of keep things going. The thing that was fucking annoying for me was that I had such a problem damaging him. I don't know if it's because of his damage resistances or what. The only person who was doing any damage was my Tav, who eventually I just said fuck it and went Slayer form and was just going to fucking town. But he would fucking frighten my Tav literally every turn. Every fucking turn. He was just casting like the gaze of gayness or whatever that would frighten Tav. And like it was, and because I could deal with a lot of the necromites because I just had Asterion fucking pew pewing all the eggs every turn. But it was just the fact I couldn't fucking damage him because no one did anything other than Tav, and Tav was fucking scared shitless in Slayer form every fucking turn.
Yeah, I save scummed a lot, and what it would normally do is that he would normally do that like that wide swipe attack to hit as many people as possible. So what I tried to do was like I split everybody off. Anyone that was melee, I kind of hit the cardinals. You know what I mean? So like that way, like if he does his AOE swipe, he could only hit like a maximum of 2 people. But even then, like he would always do that gaze attack that you're talking about right after, and like I would try to save Scum so that he would target, because he would do it twice. He would do it once on his turn as part of his like his normal attack, and also once per turn. And this was probably a legendary action. Anyone who attacks him at all will automatically receive a gaze, but it only happened once a turn. So I'd always use like a summon, like a skeleton archer, to bait that attack so that he wouldn't cast his gaze on someone actually useful. Even then, I still had to lower the difficulty.
Yeah, I mean, I was doing like this a similar thing where I was baiting that one, but he still uses it on his turn, and with 100% effectiveness, he was casting it on my monk every turn, who was the only one who could do damage. While Minthara sat there like poking with the fucking Shar +3 spear for like 3 damage every turn because I don't think that guy takes any damage from piercing.
What was your favorite session?
I think it's probably just the Merkle fight, if for no reason other than I thought the rest of the fights were nothingness.
Well, the
The
first
only other
Ketheric
one,
fight was pretty cool.
the only other one that would be like a notable one is where you fought the kid and mommy and daddy because I thought it was cool, like the flavor of the mommy and daddy shadows.
I
I think
completely forgot about
you
that.
I think you guys would have a different opinion of this if you fought Balthazar in the Shadowfell because I think that fight's really cool.
Oh yeah, because I just fought
Yeah.
him literally the first time you run into him, basically, where I was just like, I can't let you do that, Star Fox, and I just fucking killed him on the spot.
Yeah, man, that's
Yeah, he
crazy.
like
I've never done that in any playthrough. I've always fought
Yeah,
him in
I
the
think me and Ben are the
Shadowfell.
same person. Everything,
I've
but
read
every time Ben
about.
says I do something, it's like, oh, I did that too.
Yeah, also, like, even though I've never seen him in the Shadowville, I've read about it. And what I read, I don't know if this has, like, been patched out or prevented in honor mode, but usually what I read is that people would just, like, have a Warlock and then they would just use Eldritch Blast with repelling modifier and just
Oh
launch him
yeah.
off the thing, launch him off the rock, and he just dies instantly.
I didn't think he died if you pushed him off the edge. I thought he comes back. Maybe I'm crazy, but there's like a million fucking skeletons in that fight though that you absolutely can push into the oblivion.
yeah, it might not work on honor mode doing that because I think his legendary action gives him flying. I think, but yeah, that was definitely the case in my first playthrough where like I didn't fight Balthazar when I saw him. You get down to the night song, he fucking teleports in because he's an asshole. He's like, "Hey, give me the night song." I'm like, "No, fuck you," and he's like, "No, fuck you." summons a million skeletons, and some of them are those like giant skeletons that have really high strength. You have really high strength, you're really good at shoving. And that combat on my first playthrough was very difficult because all of those big guys were just shoving all of my party members off.
Yeah, that's like all they do. It's really annoying. They were doing that in my fight too. In fact, that's how Shadowheart died in my fight, was getting fucking shoved into the oblivion.
So does he show up like before you interact with the Night Song?
Yeah, you have to like basically tell him like get the fuck out of here. Like literally, Shadowheart is like, no, dude, this is my fucking destiny. Get the fuck out of here, and that's what starts the fight.
Gotcha.
I think last thing I want to ask for gameplay, because we've kind of skirted around it, where there's a whole lot of unaliving you can do in this act. There's the the 4 thorns actually, and your gear, and I might be missing someone, but that's a lot of really big combats that you can just straight up skip. How do you guys feel about that?
I like it a lot. I like it a lot because it's all about like the immersive simness to me, and the fact that you can do that is awesome.
Yeah, I think in any game that has like such a high focus on like many multiple outcomes, having one that is like dialogue based is always something that I think games like this should strive for. And like literally free running everyone into telling them to fucking suicide themselves is awesome.
Yeah, I also like that the game does provide you the tools to proceed on the main quest. Like if you kill like a critical NPC, like usually they'll drop like a document on them that will give you like the important information you need to continue on the critical path. You can also like speak to their corpse, and there probably, because there are so many different permutations of everything, there's probably some way to like soft lock or hard lock your progress, but I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Yeah, I think that's like the cool part of the game, where like there's all these permutations and like shit. You never really like get locked out of forward progression.
Yeah, I think I agree with you guys. Like, it does feel really fucking good when you manage to get all this experience and rewards and stuff just through dialogue. But like in the back of my head, like playing it a lot, I just every single time I go through Act Two, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm not gonna do any of these combats because why would I? But at the same time, like all of them have legendary actions. It just sucks that it feels like I'm losing out on all of this content. You know, like it could be that one of those fights is the best one.
I think it should be like harder to access somehow, but I don't know how you do that with save scumming.
I think the only person I've never actually fought in Act 2 is the Doctor. I've done all the other fights at least once.
I did the Doctor once, and he's
hard. He's fucking hard. That's why I never fight him, because I tried to fight him once and I was like, fuck that.
I think the easiest one is the gold lady. She's not that bad at all.
Oh yeah, she's really easy.
I think gives you 1,000,000 gold. It's great.
Oh yeah, this was actually the first time. So the first time I like totally bypassed the crash, so like I never interacted with like any of the Githyanki stuff. And the second time I somehow never triggered this fight. So this was the playthrough where I learned that going to Baldur's Gate, or like going to Act 3, there's apparently a Githyanki fight that triggers on the fucking pathway there. And is that fight, like, I'm curious what happens, because I absolutely fucking mind fucked them. But the legendary action on the boss in that fight looked really fucking hard. So, like, what is that fight like when you're not just tavern brawling them to death in one turn?
I mean, it took me multiple turns. I don't really remember what the legendary action was. I think that they might have cast like counterspell, but like outside of that, it was like a normal fight. I didn't know that you could not fight it though, since I thought it was just always on the way of the critical path.
I didn't know you could avoid it too.
Yeah, I don't know how I did it. I figured the first time I didn't get it because I didn't go to the creche, so they didn't know what the fuck they were looking for, right? But
oh wait, no, that makes sense. That does make sense.
The second time, I don't know how the hell I didn't see it, because I did do the creche and I did not see that fight at all.
When you say the Githyanki, do you mean like the encounter where they show up and they like try to go free whatever his name is from the Emperor's grasp?
That's Act
the
3.
beginning of our
Yeah,
Act 3.
that's the beginning of Act 3. Yeah, This is the one at the like. I don't know if it's triggered at the end of Act 2, but it says you're walking to the like Baldur's Gate like camp or whatever, Worm's Rest, I think. And it's like 4 or 5 Githyanki or something, and they're like on a bridge or some shit.
Yeah, so if you didn't go to the crush, you didn't meet Voss, he might have not given you like the psionic detector, which like rings whenever Githyanki are about to ambush you. Because that's like the first time it happens. It starts vibrating or ringing, and you're like, oh shit, they're coming. And then they come, and then you fight them.
So wait, there's like a fight with Githyanki before you get the Worm's Rest, and then there's a fight with Githyanki as you get the Worm's Rest?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I only did the Worm's Rest one because I didn't go to the crash, so I have no idea what the other one is.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, I think even aside from legendary action, I'm pretty positive that every Githyanki encounter in this game is the hardest encounter in every act.
Yeah, I thought that too until I did this one in Act 2 and I fucking butt blasted them. Because the one in Act 3 is like, that might have been the hardest fight in the whole game for me the first time.
I think one of the hardest parts about that encounter, the Githyanki encounter in Act 2, is that a lot of times you're going to go there not knowing an encounter is there right after you finished fighting Ketheric, so you're not going to think the long rest. If you don't know about that and you run into it, that must suck.
So I guess I said that this legendary action looked hard, but I think it just reads hard. I didn't actually see the effect, but it says once per round when a humanoid dies, the Chirai can spend a legendary action to sacrifice its soul to Vlakith in return for great power. Once 3 souls have been sacrificed, the Chirai takes on Vlakith's undying aspect. And I was just like, I read that as soon as I entered the encounter. I was like, nah, you gotta die. You gotta die right now.
Yeah, I don't
I don't
think I
remember
saw
that at
that
all.
because, and this is probably what happens in like a lot of combats I have where the Tavern Brawler does stunning fist, and then I see the word stun, and then it's over basically for that guy.
Yeah.
And that I think that
Yep.
guy did too had the legendary action.
All right, here's what this does because I clicked it on the wiki. The Scion of the Lich Queen has its armor class increased by 3, whatever. All of its ability scores increased by 6. Huh, that's a lot. And fires 6 beams when casting Eldritch Blast. Holy shit.
Jesus.
I'm
Okay.
pretty sure that's a one shot.
Oh yeah, that is just you lose.
Okay, actual last question for the gameplay section, then we can move on to art, audio, UI. And we can keep this one short. I just want to get vibes. How do you guys feel about your current power level in relation to the difficulty?
Outside of Merkel, I am overwhelmingly powerful.
Outside of Karnas showing up in the Ketheric fight, I felt pretty much unstoppable, but in that fight, I felt very much stoppable.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Explorer, so the whole game's a fucking complete joke. Like 2-shot Ketheric or something ridiculous, and Merkel didn't take more than 1 turn.
I'm gonna be honest with you, on Tactician, it's not that much different. It's pretty much the same thing.
I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't know,
You
maybe.
might need to save scum more, but you can
I mean,
just blow them up.
Yeah, I think I'd blow them up anyway, but I think there might be a chance where they kill me. Right now, there's no chance anything kills me because you just have so much fucking health.
I guess maybe it's just
Yeah.
the honor mode rule set is what like ramps the difficulty up. I feel
Sounds
like they
like
did I feel like they did a really good job with balancing it because like I'm just playing like 4 overpowered classes and like those fucking legendary actions like they even the odds. That is for damn sure.
Yeah.
It does
I
sound
mean,
cool.
honor mode definitely goes hard, but I don't think the benefits that the monsters get from tactician in particular are to be underestimated. Like, I think they get something like somewhere between 5 and 7 AC bonus just from being on tactician compared to explorer, which is a
Yeah,
lot.
like I feel like tactician is like not that much easier.
Oh no, I thought it was way easier than honor mode at least, but I feel like that's just an extreme comparison.
Well,
I mean, I
honor
switched
mode's
because the
definitely
chance to
crazy.
hit. Chance to hit was fucking annoying, and I think that's directly tied to AC, right? I don't know shit about D&D.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the only reason why I switched because like it just felt fucking awful.
Yeah, and
Like this is why like everyone says like take Grand Weapon Master, take Sharpshooter. And I'm like, motherfucker, I already have like a fucking 45% to hit. If I fucking turn on Sharpshooter, it's going to be like 3%. What the fuck are you talking about?
Okay, enough for the gameplay, though. We have talked that to death as expected, and that's okay. Moving on to art, audio, UI.
I got the first
how do
question.
you- Go ahead.
Who did it better? Okay.
Oh, that's good stuff.
Sorry, keep going.
What game is that on the right? What's
That's
that
Star
called?
Fox 64. That's the final
Yeah.
boss, Andros.
That's fucking Andros. That's great.
Incredible. I'm gonna have that staring at me for the rest of this. Okay. How did you guys feel about? Because we talked about this a little bit in Act One. How did you guys feel about the tonal shift, going from Act One and the Emerald Grove environs to the Shadow Curse lands, and just the absolute swap into like actual just straight up horror. Like if you're going through the Grimforge, your very first like encounter with people is literally just a cutscene that is just like straight out of a horror movie. It's not that scary, but it is out of a horror movie, and that kind of keeps up through Wraithwind Village and everything else. How did you guys feel about that pivot?
Part of me feels like a lot of the purpose of the Underdark is to kind of soften the transition into Act 2, because I feel like if you didn't have the majority of what's presented to you in the Underdark, like let's just say for all intents and purposes, you have the surface of Act 1 and you have Grimforge and no like rest of the Underdark. The transition into Act 2 would feel so jarring. Tonally, narratively, fucking all of it. But I feel like having the Underdark as kind of like a way of softening the butter a little bit makes it a lot less jarring than it would have been otherwise.
I personally don't like the whole act takes place in basically like a is it the Underdark or is it just like Underdark-esque? I don't know.
No, it's like you're talking about the Shadow Curse lands.
Yes.
No, you are out in the open world. It's just a very large swath of land that was cursed, literally
okay.
by Shar. Yeah.
Yeah. I just didn't know if it was like part of the Underdark and like what makes the Underdark or anything like that from like just the lack of knowing the lore of stuff.
Yeah, the Underdark's like a cave. It's like an underground
Yeah.
cave.
A very like vast and expansive. It's kind of like the underground of Elden Ring, to make a comparison. It's just a very broad and encompassing like flora and fauna place.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so for me, I'm biased, but I don't really like kind of like darkness kind of areas, and so the fact that like the whole act took place kind of there was kind of like meh to me. And when it is kind of areas like this, I like it when it's more like supernatural, like crazy shit going on. Which besides Big Brain over there, like it was just kind of like typical like gothic horror kind of vibes. Which yeah, not my favorite.
Ben?
I didn't mind it too much. Like, it might be because I've played this game so many times, but it's kind of just there and I expect it. I will say that I do like the Gauntlet of Shar though, like a lot more than I do the outside areas. Because when you're outside in the Shadow Curse lanes, I think the only parts that I really like are the Last Light Inn and Moonrise Towers. I'm not the biggest fan of Wraithwind Town, and I'm less of a fan of the open area where the curse is mostly concentrated. Out outside of a few things, actually no, that's not true. There's like certain combats that I really don't like in that area, but I guess that's more of gameplay and design. So if we're just talking about like the way it looks, I do think that those outdoor areas are a little samey. I guess I'll put Wraithwind Town above the, I don't know what you want to call it, like the open main area, I guess.
Forgotten Battlefield, I think it's
Yeah,
called.
Forgotten
Yeah.
Battlefield. Yeah, that one is a little too samey for me, just like all around.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, I don't really know because you can't really put something that looks too out of place in a place like that with the narrative that they're telling. So I feel like they did the best that they could with what they got.
Yeah, I will say Act 2 like visually and tonally is definitely my least favorite, like basically for the reason you guys are talking about, because I don't like navigating things that are just dark.
Yeah.
Things that are dark and force me to like again, remember, I don't know about this fucking fairy thing. Things that are dark and force me to like stand close together so that I can't really like explore with like a degree of freedom that I really want to. Um, I don't mind the actual gothic horror setting. I don't think that they nailed it in Act Two. But Moonrise and Last Light In and the Gauntlet of Shar are like highlights of the fucking game. So everything outside of the open world dish parts is super good.
Yeah, I think I agree with you guys more than I thought I would. Like Forgotten Battlefield, it's definitely like I found myself multiple times getting lost exploring
Yeah.
that area, and it's not because I want to. It's because like the whole area looks pretty samey and not nearly as many like outlying objects as the other acts. I think that would give you a sense of place or purpose to where you're wandering around. And the ones that do exist, like for example, I don't know if any of you guys found the little like shack of Quotoa, the fish people that pop out and
Yeah.
attack you. But like as someone who loves Lovecraft, I really wish that that was expanded on and you to like had this little Shadow over Innsmouth style encounter. But oh, it's just fish people and they attack you. All right.
Yeah. That was
Yeah,
super underwhelming.
I feel like maybe a point of contention I would have with Act Two is the fact that it is so focused on the critical path in a way that Act One isn't,
Mhm.
that it sort of neglects to do some of that like world building that is like very important to a game like this. So like there's so many like random encounters and like random shit going on and none of it's really fleshed out or like characterized in a really great way, even though like the overall quality of the act is still super high. I wish that there was just more distraction content that was as high quality as it is in acts 1 and 3.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like you were saying earlier when you started talking about side quests, I could hardly remember any.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
There's so few of them, and what is there is just kind of eh.
Yeah. Hard agree.
But
Yeah, I
again,
mean,
the critical path of Act Two is like fucking incredible, especially in comparison to Act One, where I struggle to define exactly what the critical path is in Act One. But in Act Two, it's a lot more linear and it's super 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 high quality for sure.
yeah, I mean, like you guys were saying, Gauntlet of Shar is definitely goaded despite all of this. I think it's a really interesting decision, like both artistically and narratively, to include the Gauntlet of Shar in this because, yeah, I mean, it's like it's dark. Shar is not a good person, so you know it's not going to be the happiest of places. But I think it's really interesting that they included this like elegant reprieve from the rest of the act in this like underground mausoleum where it's like you know it's run down but you still see all these statues. The music is really like soft and kind of haunting and it's really good. I kind of wonder what someone's experience of the Gauntlet of Shar would be like without Shadowheart if they were doing it for the first time, but
Yeah, I was wondering
I
that too.
I've never experienced that. I've never even like looked up what happens other than the fact that she gets mad
Yeah,
and
like
probably leaves the
yeah.
party.
I didn't even plan on including Shadowheart in my like main party, but I still was like, all right, Minthara, go home. We're bringing in Shadowheart for
Uh,
this
Yeah, if
because
you
it doesn't feel right to not have Shadowheart in there, and it's so much more like narratively compelling.
yeah, and I'm especially looking at it through the first playthrough perspective of like Shadowheart gives you all of the lore for the Gauntlet of Shar. How would you feel about this place if you didn't have Shadowheart? That's a tough one, but
Yeah,
yeah, I mean Shadowheart just straight up leaves your party if you kill the Night Song without her.
yeah, and I feel like when in my first
really?
playthrough, oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh yeah,
Shadowheart will leave you and the Gauntlet of Shar for like a bunch of different reasons.
That oh.
Including if you don't go to get the spear in the library. I think she'll even like become hostile if you're just like, nah, we don't need that. Let's go.
Yeah, that rules.
Yeah, I didn't even know
Um,
about any of that.
but yeah, I feel like especially if you're like romancing Shar fucking Shadowheart, Because I was in my first playthrough, and I feel like a lot of the scenes with her and the night song, um, in a good playthrough, like specifically, are like some of the absolute best parts of the entire game. IMO.
Are you talking like Shadowheart interacting with the Night Song?
Yeah, like trying to like come to grips with her faith and like who she is as a person, and then just being like, nah, fuck it, we going good now. It's sort of like really, really, it's much better than it is on an evil playthrough. I'll just say that.
Yeah, because you on an evil playthrough, you get the same spiel, but you're like, yeah, I don't care, just kill her anyway.
You do get a really, you do get a, you do get a really nice spear though. That fucking spear you get
That's
when she fucking kills the Night Song is crazy.
so. This is what I wanted to mention. This is technically gameplay, I guess, but I think I'm going to shoehorn it into art. So this is something that I only experienced this time because I've never done an evil playthrough. But if you appease Shar and you kill the Night Song, I didn't know that she gives you like a fuck ton of loot. And this is important because when it comes to heavy armor, getting even one more choice, which is what she gives you, another choice of heavy armor, that's adds so much to transmog. Like
Oh
just
yeah,
having one more, literally
yeah.
one more skin.
Every fucking piece of gear that I got for that, I was just looking at, and it was just like, holy shit. And I just immediately equipped all of it to Minthara. So Minthara just looks like the world's like most godly, Shar worshipping,
That's funny.
dark justiciar of all fucking time.
Yeah, this was something I wanted to ask since we were pretty critical of how the transmog looked in Act 1, especially Sesh. Do you feel like the transmog in this act made up for how relatively poor it was in Act 1?
I didn't really get any gear that I equipped it that made me like stick with it. Like I don't know if I
Really?
just missed a bunch of shit or something, but like I feel like the shit that I got like at the end of Act 1 was like strong enough, and then in Act 2 I feel like I didn't get anything for, like for my classes, and fucking what's her name is just running around in her panties because she's a fucking uh tavern brawler monk. So it's fucking just kind of awkward when she's doing all these serious scenes and she's got bra and panties on and her ass is out. But
I feel like there's a ton of gear that looks fucking awesome in Act 2. Like, I mean, granted, a lot of it you don't get until late. Like, Ketheric's armor looks fucking sick as fuck.
I don't have anybody that wears heavy armor.
That's your problem.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, it's all light medium.
Yeah. All the plate armor looks fucking amazing.
Yeah, all of it. All of it looks so good.
I believe it. It's a little bummer they don't have any kind of like transmog system outside of mods.
Yeah, it's
Seems
really
weird.
surprising to me that they don't, to be honest with you.
Yeah, they even have the mirror right there
Yeah.
to do it.
But yeah, I feel like I feel like even in Act 2, a lot of the armor isn't like eye popping, but once you start getting like the overpowered items in Act 3, things take a turn for the better, for sure.
Yeah, I think the main thing is just like the helmet slot. Like I wish you could kind of go like you could. Can you hide individual pieces or
Oh
no?
yeah,
Yeah.
the first thing I do is hide everyone's helmet as soon as I
Yeah.
equip one.
Okay, so I need to find that setting then because yeah, every time I would turn it off and fucking
Are you keyboard mouse?
yeah.
So if you go into like when you press tab and you go into like the
Yeah.
equipment menu, if you just hover over the helmet slot, then there will be a little like button that kind of shows up in like the top left above the helmet slot. You just click it a couple
Okay.
of times and it'll disappear.
Gotcha. Yeah, because like between Karlak's helmet and then who's the other one that bugged me? Might have been Shadowheart's helmet. I was just like, no, I can't do this. So they're
God,
just
they
running
all
around
bug
in
me.
camp.
Yeah.
Some of them
I
look
mean,
cool.
there's
Yeah.
I mean, there's a couple cool ones. Like one of my favorite, like lore transmog feeling ones, even if it's not very good, is getting Shadowheart in full Dark Justiciar plate
Oh, yeah.
with the spear. It looks so good.
Yeah, it looks awesome. And
I
like there's I forget the name of the like rogue's hood.
Yeah,
Um,
that's exactly what I was gonna say.
it looks so sick, but I have it equipped on Asterion, and it's so
Yeah.
weird to have Asterion saying all of these like sassy, sexy one-liners while he's covered in this fucking like dark brotherhood cowl.
It's the same thing for me, except until I got Jahir, I was using Gale, and he had that hood on, and it was just so fucking weird to hear that fucking
Yeah.
like fruity motherfucker and stuff
Ooh,
with that hood on.
the fucking frat bro.
Yeah, yeah. Once Jahira
Oh,
showed
that's
up, he
funny.
got cut immediately.
Holy shit! You have Jaheira recruit in your main
like
party.
it.
That's
Yeah.
kind of sick. That's kind of sick. I
But
feel like
Jaheira
I
has
never hear
some-
of anyone doing or having Jaheira in their main
I
party.
thought she was fucking awesome. So
My
every
fir-
time I would talk to her, I would just be like, "You should come with me. You should
I
come
mean,
with me. You should come with me."
Jaheira is fucking bae, bro. I mean, I don't know
Yeah.
how much you know about these games, but Jaheira is like one of the main line characters from the first two games. So when she showed up in this game, I was like, oh shit!
I,
Yeah,
I
she
don't
has some-
know much other than like basically what the game tells you of like Karlach just being like, "Oh shit!"
I think
the fangirl.
Yeah,
she is pretty much like the only character from the original games.
Playable.
Yeah, playable.
Yeah, and
We'll talk about this more later, but yeah,
Sesh might
she was.
already know.
I mean, I'm not gonna step
Probably
on her
Yeah,
territory,
yeah.
but
We don't need to.
Yeah.
But yeah, like when she showed up, it was a real like fan servicey, my heart fluttered moment because she's one of the fucking sweetest characters from the original trilogy. Even though she's kind of a cheating bitch, but that's okay.
is
I like that they account for all that in her
Yeah,
dialogue.
I do too. I think that's great.
is she the same voice actor?
I
No,
believe
that's
so.
no,
Oh
no.
no!
This is
Yeah,
no,
that's
this is
right.
yeah. There's a story about this. They tried to get the original voice actor. She went literally missing. No one
Yeah,
knows
no one
where
could
the
Huh?
fuck
find
she
her.
went.
Yeah,
What the
I forgot
fuck?
about that. No one knows where she is. They wanted to get her and they couldn't find her.
Yeah, she just vanished off the face of the fucking planet.
What the fuck? She an American?
From such a big game too. Holy moly.
I'm not sure, but whoever they found to replace her, she sounds exactly like her. So I
Yeah,
mean,
she's
it is what it is.
she sounds the exact same, like to the point it's kind of crazy actually. Because she's got that like
That's
weird
nuts.
accent. I don't even know
Yeah,
how I would describe her accent. It doesn't sound like anything of earthly origin.
I mean, to me, it just sounds like Ireland Gaelic, kind of that kind of area.
It's definitely got like it's definitely Irish with a twist.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to briefly talk about the performances, just kind of update from the last act, because obviously we gushed about it in the previous act. But this is going to be the time to talk about our boy. You all know him. We all love him. J.K. Simmons. Oh, Cutthroat's voice actor is so good. We love J.K. Simmons.
All right, I'm gonna be a detractor here, really quick. Okay,
What the?
this has nothing to do with J.K. Simmons himself. It has to do with whatever equipment I feel like they recorded his lines on. Sounds really like muddy. Like I don't
That's
know
true.
I don't know if it's just me, but it's like the actual quality of his recordings just sounds like a little bit like tinny and underwater in like a weird way that is not at all the way that every other character is. It's really strange, and like listening to his voice lines, it really bugged me because like you can hear that it's just like a lower bit rate or something. It's hard to describe. The performance itself, mwah, amazing, but the audio quality is just like really fucking bizarrely bad.
It makes me wonder if there's a lot of other games that came out around this time that were like right around the time that voice acting became mostly like
Remote.
work from home, send in
Yeah.
the files and stuff. And it wouldn't surprise me if he was a result of that, since voice acting isn't his main gig.
Yeah, I think maybe I'd like agree with Tom, but only because when Ketherick first showed up, I was just like, why is this dude mumbling? So I
Yeah.
think it was probably just like because like for when he was first showing up and shit, I was like, this guy's gonna be like throwaway or something. But then like as you interact with him more, it's like, oh, this guy's fucking awesome.
Yeah, his introduction. Well, I don't know if this is his introduction, but like that part where he casts judgment on the people in
Yeah.
front of him, like the goblin. Like that scene is so. I don't know. I love that scene where he's just.
Yeah, I mean, like his performance, because like again, let's focus on the performance here, since we're going to do a lot of Ketherick talking, both in
Yeah,
the next section and in the question. Like the way he performs that scene is so good, and I feel like there's a lot of ways that you could play that scene, which is why I really want to give him credit for it, because there's a lot going on with this character, you know? Like he's been like more or less backstabbed by two different gods, and now he's serving a third one, and he's just like a fucking broken husk shell of a man. And the performance of like that component where it's just an undead general that is like still powerful but like kind of melancholic comes through so strongly with this performance. Oh my lord, especially in the introduction scene.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I can find a fault in the performance at all, other than I feel like there's maybe some times where J.K. Simmons was reading the lines a little bit. Like, there were a couple times where it felt like he was phoning it in a little bit, but also I think in a way that is appropriate for just kind of how flat the character itself is.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, just he's fucking J.K. Simmons. What else is there to say?
Do we know how long they had him in the booth for?
I'm not sure.
Because I know Jennifer English did shit over 4 years, and I feel like J.K. Simmons was the Charlie Cox of this game, and that he did it in an afternoon.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
would
mean it's
agree with
also a
that.
case where he just didn't have that many lines to actually record.
Exactly,
Right?
that too. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's honestly like maybe one of my I guess this is more of a narrative thing, so I'll hold off for now. Actually, it's maybe more of a third question thing, but yeah, I
Yeah,
take it back.
we don't have to linger on Ketherick
I
too much, but
I also thought like Isabel and the Night Song had great performances, and like I
yeah,
like their like interactions and everything that they do. I think like yeah, I don't think there's like a bad performance in this game. Fucking still.
yeah, I think particularly I'm not quite going to put this in narrative. I don't think it is, but I think the combination of the Night Song's performance and the way she is written is a very, very, very enthralling
Yeah,
combination.
agreed.
Yeah, I think like the kind of triumvirate between Isabel, Shadowheart, and the Night Song, and kind of the way that I mean, Act Two is like their act, right? And
Hmm.
all three of them just absolutely fucking crush it. Like
Yeah.
Shadowheart in particular deserves major shout outs. She is so fucking good in Act Two. It's like jaw dropping how fucking good her performance is, especially in the whole Night Song scene.
Hmm.
So fucking good.
Yeah, I was thinking in my head as you were saying that like she almost mind you almost deceives you haha in act 1 into thinking that like her performance isn't going to get like crazy stellar, but then when the story is actually about her, then it just completely flips everything on its head
Yeah.
and you see the
Yeah.
child that Shadowheart never got to be in all of this.
Yup, yeah. Every time that like Shadowheart's just good throughout the whole thing, but whenever you are focused on her narratively or like during her quest line, God, does Jennifer English seriously knock it out of the fucking park. Like big time.
There's I can't remember exactly when she says it, but there's one point. Wait. Oh, it's when you first get to the Night Song, and the Night Song starts to be like, "You child of Saluna" or whatever, and Shadowheart just goes, "What?" That performance of that "what" is like a top 10 performance of all time. Oh my god, it's one word, but the way she says it is so fucking good.
One
I
thing
understand that
that
completely.
One thing I would actually recommend at some point is like when you do another playthrough, don't let her come to the conclusion of what she wants to do with the Night Song like naturally. Try and like coerce her. And as you do that, she will get angrier and angrier and angrier, and it actually makes the performance even better
That's
because
funny.
she just gets so fucking pissed at you trying to like decide her like destiny for her, and the voice lines get delivered with this fucking like acid that is not really present anywhere else in her performance, and it's so fucking good, so fucking good. Also, shout out to another performance that only Ben and I got, I think, which is Minthara. God damn, she is
Oh,
fucking
me too.
good.
Yep. Minthara's
Uh,
incredible.
Minthara's performance in Act 2 when you get to Moonrise and she's like in front of the fucking Inquisition is so good.
Yeah, there's the line that she says when they're like dragging her away. That's like she's like shouting "Help me" or something like that, and it's like the only time where she actually is like vulnerable and scared, and oh, it's haunting. I'm
Is
sorry,
there any
Ben.
way
What
to
were you
get
gonna say?
her on
Yeah,
a good playthrough?
Yes.
you can, but you have to do some like
Yeah,
shiesty shit in Act 1. You have to like
yeah.
knock her out. Like you have to like do non-lethal attack, knock her out, complete the whole like goblin. Uh, Basically, you just kill everybody in the goblin fortress while she's knocked out, and then you go to Act 2.
And then she's just like a homie now. She's like, "Oh, thanks for saving me."
Well,
Yeah, like you knock her out so she's not dead, and the idea is after you long rest, then she just retreats back to Moonrise, and then they get mad at her for like failing the mission, and she joins your party after you save her.
Okay,
They actually still get mad at her even if she's successful in her mission. So
yeah, they
they're
find a
just mad
reason.
at her no matter what.
that's kind of lame.
Yeah, I didn't know if we were doing the award for like best performance right now, but if since we brought up Minthara, um that is what I put down. There's like one line she does. Um it's at the end where she does like that aura farming where she sits in Kethric's throne after he
Oh
dies.
That's sick.
yes.
Oh,
And
I
then
forgot
that's
about that.
but all that whole like as good as that conversation was, there's one part I wanted to point out where it's close to the end and it kind of like butts up with like the romance portion of it, kind of where she's like, she talks about how she was like mind controlled, but then she's like, wait a minute, earlier back in Act One, like I didn't have control of my actions. What was your excuse for killing everybody in the grove? And then I answered back with something like, it really is because you're hot. And she accepts it. She's like, yeah, that makes sense. And I fucking cracked up.
Yeah, no,
That's funny.
that's part of the reason I just fucking love Minthara as a character because she'll like ask you incredibly direct questions like that. Like in like in my playthrough, she asked me a series of like 3 different questions of like basically like that. Why didn't you kill me at the Grove? It showed weakness. And like female drow culture is just so fucking sick, and getting to have a
Yes.
character like Minthara in your party because of that is so fucking good.
There is a reason why a character who will not yet be named is the best character from Baldur's Gate 2. And it's because she is a female drow.
I
Yeah,
think you
like
told me
one
about
of
it, Tom,
What'd you say?
forever ago. I think you told me about that character forever ago. Is that the character that they fucked up with like the canon ending that they gave her from that game or something, or is that someone else?
Maybe.
Yeah, it is. Okay, cool. I can't remember the details, so it literally doesn't matter.
yeah, as long as you don't know where that character is, it doesn't really matter too. So
Also, yes, Minthara absolutely like subtle goat in this act, even though like if I had to pick a best performance, it would be Shadowheart, but also another performance, which will certainly not be the last time it gets shouted out, is fucking Asterion. Um,
yep.
because this was the first time I saw all of the stuff with Asterion and Yurgir, and it is really good.
I
Really
like that
fucking
character.
good.
That Urgir guy, that's the Red Demon, like the Raphael counterpart
Yeah.
guy, right? Yeah, that
Mm-hmm.
guy owns.
Yeah, he's great. He's
Yeah.
fucking dead as shit in my playthrough, but
Oh,
he's
me
great.
too. He killed himself. Weird.
Weird how you ended up with your own crossbow bolt in your head. That's fucking crazy, bro. But no, yeah, like y- your opinion of Astarion's performance is only going to increase up until the end of the story and the game.
I'm
But the
really
one,
pissed. Just really quick, I'm really pissed because I definitely fucked up his romance because he has not made any sort of romantic gesture towards me at all. And I'm sort of wondering if it's because, well, A, it might be because I banged Minthara after the Druid Grove, but also B, I'm wondering if there's like a certain amount of like just overtly evil dirge shit that will stop people from sleeping with you because no character has made romantic like
Okay,
impasses at me.
I was
None
about
of
to
them.
mention, yeah, because like Shadowheart didn't either, and like I was about to complain about that. I didn't know if that was something that was actually a problem with the act's writing, because I was like, I didn't see anything
Yeah.
romance-wise for Asterion or Minthara in Act
Yeah,
Two.
same here.
well,
I installed a poly mod because I thought maybe I fucked it up and I was like too far down the Minthara path for like everyone to want to like bang me, even though all I did was fuck her after the celebration. But Like literally no one. Like Lae'zel isn't flirting with me, which is weird because Lae'zel flirts with me in every fucking playthrough I've ever had. No Shadowheart coming on to me, no Astarion coming on to me. Like no one gives a shit, and I'm wondering
Makes
if I'm
sense.
just too fucking evil.
Yeah.
Well,
None of the characters are really psychopathic, right? So that would make sense.
well, I don't think. Good question.
Yeah, there's some psychos for sure. It just depends on the path you want to take.
Sure.
I don't think there's any like actual sex scenes you can get in Act Two for what that's worth, like from anyone.
Okay.
Is
But
that
Thomas
true?
did. I thought so. Maybe Gale. Can you see? I don't think Gale would be
Surely,
Sarlacc.
surely Shadowheart fucks you in Act
No,
2.
Karlach does, right? She definitely does.
I thought that was Act Three.
No, it's
I
Act
remember the
2.
scene
Act
vividly.
2, she like it's got to be Act 2. It's like after you do the thing with Damon, and
Oh
she
no,
like
yeah,
finally
you're
gets to
right. You're
touch
right.
you, and then she like her fire turns blue,
Well,
right? Like I'm not making
and
this
then,
up. This is
Yeah.
Act 2.
I mean,
no,
I was
I think
gonna.
you're right, and I think you're right. In any case, Thomas, did you get the scene with Astarion where he just wants to hold hands?
Nope, he never showed me his
Oh,
scars.
I
So, like,
don't.
when I first walked up to the Gauntlet of Shar, and Raphael was like, "Oh, you haven't showed them your scars." He like disappears his fucking shirt, and Astarion is like, "Oh, you fucker." So
oh, yeah.
yeah,
Not knowing about his scars is kind of a big thing too, because you can get that from his romance in Act One in a really cool way too. So you're
yeah.
definitely missing
I,
out.
I think that there's just something with like the Mega Evil Dirge playthrough that is just like completely boning me or something because like I have been following like guides and shit and I just never got any scenes after I would rest. Like
I
none
Well,
of them.
I
Which
think Seth is right in that there aren't scenes, and also the hand holding scene. I'm not sure if that's actually part of his romance. I think that's part of uh, the quote unquote failure state you get from the Araj side quest.
Well, like even in Act Two, what I was reading is as long as Astarion's uh what is it, favor, reputation, whatever with you,
approval.
approval is at least, I think what I read was 60. When you first go into Act 2, then it will still play scenes that would normally play in Act 1, and you can continue on with the romance path. But I never got any of those scenes, and my approval with him is like maxed, basically. And was when I went into Act 2.
I know it's not as simple as people say because I fucked up the Karlach one where I was like trying to not to, and but then when like I did the thing with Damon, like she would only hug me, and then when I looked it up, people were like, "You're fucked," and I was like, "Oh, am I?" And I installed no romance mod and made her a partner through fucking debug commands.
I think just for the sake of pacing, let's just go ahead and say that as we're talking about these romances, we are in narrative.
Narrative, yeah.
Can I just
Yeah,
ask real quick about music? Like, were there any songs for you guys in Act Two specifically that are like standout bangers?
Nah, Act 2's.
bangers. No.
Okay. Because the
Yeah,
only
I
song I can even think of is the combat song, and I think it's just because of how many times it plays.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
all the combat songs are really good. Period. I really, really, really like the song in Gauntlet of Shar, but I wouldn't describe it as a banger.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely like they pulled back a little bit on the music in Act Two for like aesthetic purposes, I
Ambiance,
guess.
yeah.
Because yeah, I agree. Like I was even thinking about it earlier today. I was like, can I even think of a song from Act Two?
I can only think of the combat theme. And I don't even know that's a combat if that's a Act Two song. That might also be the same combat theme as in the Underdark. I wouldn't even know.
Yeah, the only one that I distinctly remember, and it's definitely Act Two, is Gauntlet of Shar thong, which
Yeah, the Gauntlet of Shar song is awesome. It's like a fucking
Yeah.
Diablo 2 song.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. We can go to narrative now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that's interesting about this game is the romances. Like, I don't know how much we talked about it in the last episode, but like, it is legitimately difficult to romance some of these characters, Astarion especially, because it's just really difficult to interpret like what is going to get approval
Mhm.
from some of these characters. Because like with Shadowheart, for example, um, like you would think she's a Shar worshiper and like make a lot of assumptions around that you would get approval
Yeah.
from, but then like she hates wolves, but she likes animals. And there's like all kinds of small things like that can earn or lose you approval before you even know about them, which is
Mhm.
hard. But yeah, it's just really difficult. And Thomas, I think with the Asterion thing, now you kind of understand why Cass restarted her entire Act 1 playthrough just because she wanted to romance Asterion.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, I was literally following like a guide to
Yeah.
make sure that I was like doing it right, and like, yeah, I don't know, something along the way got fucked up, and I think it was probably literally just picking Minthara at the fucking celebration because I was like, I want to see this broad's tits. We'll go back to Asterion afterwards.
No, I think,
It'll do the
yeah, I think
work.
that's kind of a thing that all those guides and things don't call out. Like, I think you kind of have to like commit to one person pretty early on because I feel like that's why I fucked up Karlak
I
because
don't.
every decision
Yeah,
I
'cause-
make is just making sure that it says Karlak does approves at the top.
Yeah, and I mean maybe that's true now, but like back when I played originally, that was the opposite of true, where like everyone every night was like, "Hey, you want to fuck?" Like you could not long rest without one of the characters coming up to you and being like, "Yo, get that cock out." So
I think part of the hard thing now is that like after they changed all of that stuff, is that if you sleep with someone like Minthara in Act 1, then that'll like softly turn off some of the triggers for the other characters. But the problem is that if you hard commit to one character, then at least the characters that are okay with polyamory, you can still romance. But if you don't go all in on one character, then it's not going to trigger the polyamory, right? The game still thinks that you're romancing someone else, but it's not high enough to trigger polyamory.
Yeah, because
yeah,
I mean, to go behind the scenes, there's like two flags. There's a dating flag and there's a partner flag, and you can only have one partner.
yeah, because I know that Astarion's cool with you banging other chicks in the beginning, but later on,
Yeah,
he's like, "Nope."
yeah. When you go
Which
to
is why I
Karlak, you
thought
can't
which
date.
is why I thought it was okay to fuck Minthara.
Exactly.
Well, depends on what you mean by okay with it, because you can still have a fivesome in Act 3 with him.
What
That's
the
sick.
hell? Who's the
Yeah,
five?
the twins in the brothel.
Uh oh,
And
did you say Act 3?
yeah,
Oh, I thought you said Act 1 and I was like, "Huh?"
no.
That
And you
that makes
can
more sense.
Yeah, with the tieflings.
and you can make your fifth house, and so it's a fivesome with a bear.
Oh,
That's
that's
funny.
hilarious.
Wait, will he be a bear in the sex scene?
I think that is the only example where they actually black out the sex scene.
That's funny.
That's
Had to
fucking
draw the
awesome.
line somewhere.
Can't
The
be
line
having
is
bear
drawn
dicks
at
around here.
bestiality.
Yeah, no bear dicks.
I mean, you can still fuck a bear with the full scene in Act 1. Don't you guys remember the
Oh yeah,
fucking
the controversy.
marketing? Yeah.
Yeah, the fucking cancel culture crowd getting really upset that you could fuck a bear. I remember.
I don't know.
I've
What are you guys
never
talking
put
about?
house in my party, so I've never actually seen the scene. I've only heard about it from like marketing because
Why
it
is he a
was
bear
used in
when you
marketing.
fuck him?
Because he
You
can.
can just choose to. Yeah, I mean, he's a druid.
Yeah, why not?
Why not like a jaguar? Jaguar seems a lot sexier.
Bear got big dick.
What do you call a big hairy masculine gay dude?
Yeah, I guess it's just not for me, I guess.
Yeah, there you go.
I think I'd rather fuck a jaguar. A cougar form, whatever it is.
Okay, so getting away from gay sex, narratively, I feel actually like very conflicted about this part of the game, strangely enough, because I feel like Act 2 serves as a really good bridge uh, from Act 2 to Act 3, but I also feel like Act 2 is paced very fucking poorly.
Agreed.
And some of that, I think, is just mostly to do with the fact that Act 2 is kind of trying to solve Act 1's sins. Because I don't think Act 1 does a good job of laying like the foundation for the narrative. And then by the time you get to Act 2, it's just like this huge lore dump of like, hey, here's the brain, here's the dead three, and we're marching off to Baldur's Gate. Okay, bye. It's just like all very sudden and like very kind of out of nowhere. Um, and I think Act 3 kind of makes up for it. Okay, well, I don't want to get out of scope, but
Yeah.
um, like I said, I feel like it's just really jarring, and I think that's mostly because they just didn't do a good job of setting all of what they come up with in Act 2 up very well.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that is why I asked my second question. So I'm wondering what you'll have to say for that. But like part of the question I wanted to ask you guys in here surrounding that is how did you feel about the introduction of the two other? Actually, all three major villains are introduced in this act, but they like wait for to introduce Orin and Gortash. Do you guys feel like that was a mistake? Should they have introduced all three of these sooner to like help solve some of the problems Thomas is describing? Like I do feel like there is a meanderingness to the plot up until this point, and it leaves me with questions.
I'm not sure because like my issues with like those three specifically is kind of fixed in this current playthrough with like the additional dirge context. I will say that the additional dirge context helps out Orin and Gortash more than does Ketheric, but Ketheric also needed help a lot less than those two characters. So that's kind of like my general sense about those guys.
Yeah,
And just to be clear with the question, I don't want to get too much into the Orin and Gortash stuff.
Okay.
I'm just asking, like, we now know who the three major villains are at the end of Act 2. Do we think that should have happened sooner?
I think it's
yes.
I'm kind of okay with it as is, but I'd have to see it in another form to like really have a, a better answer.
I think they should have at least alluded to them on the Nautiloid. Maybe not just like, hey, my name's Orin. Hey, my name's Gortash. Hey, my name's Ketheric. We're the Dead Three. But at least
So-
like show their face or something.
So I do
Well,
have
they're
in Act One in one of the
Yeah.
not longer scenes, but if you, well, I mean, I think it's mandatory to see the scene, but when
it's
you
when you approach the
walk
Goblin
too
Camp.
much, yeah, when you walk too close to the Goblin Camp, you get assaulted by the Absolute, and then the Absolute like introduces you in like a dreamscape to the to the Dead Three, and they describe Gortash as a handsome young man, which always amuses everybody.
Yeah, very
Oh,
funny.
right.
He's a fucking old, grizzled looking dipshit. Yeah, so I forgot about question 2, and I basically said my answer to it, but one thing I will say is that playing Dirge, I am really coming to understand why I have heard the opinion that Dirge was meant to be like the canonical playthrough, because I do feel like there's a lot of like through lines there that do make some of the plot aspects make a lot more sense. But I also understand why they didn't just like force the Dirge like whole story just because there's some unpalatable shit that's forced upon you. But I do think that the stuff that is introduced during a Dark Urge playthrough is actually it does a really good job of fleshing out the narrative in a way that is making me appreciate it a lot more than I did in playthroughs past.
I'm actually like, I know some of the stuff you're referencing from Act 3, but can you give some examples of that? Both because I don't know what you're referring to in Act 2, and so Sesh is kind of looped in on the dirt stuff.
Yeah, so when I was talking about it, I was talking explicitly about only Act 2. And when I say Act 2, I consider that cutscene at the very, very, very end part of Act 2, where it's Gortash and Orin with the painting.
Yep.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about? Is that Act 2 or is that Act 3?
I would call it Act 3, but it's kind of
Okay.
semantic-y.
Okay, in that case, I won't talk about it because I guess it is. Because
I mean,
it is
so
in
when does it
Baldur's
show up?
Gate. It's like at the very, very end of Act 2. Like,
It's the very first
It's-
cutscene right after you like hit the button to go to Baldur's Gate.
yeah.
So that's Act 2 still. The game triggers over to Act 3 after all the Worm's Rest stuff. That's when you get the
Yeah.
achievement. So that's
Yep.
Act 2.
Oh, that's
technically.
weird.
I
I
saw
thought so too.
I saw that cutscene, and as soon as I got into Worm's Rest, I immediately pressed F5 and quit the game. So
Yeah, me too.
I'm assuming by Worm's Rest you guys mean Rivington, right?
whatever that
Yeah.
thing is when you first go into Act 3, yeah.
Oh, it's called at the top right or whatever. It's this Worm's Rest. It's where like you get
Is that the camp?
ship with the Emperor. Yeah,
Oh, okay, that's the little. Okay, yeah.
it's like
And
the
I
weird
also
interlude place. Yeah,
I kind of find it hard to answer your question because I am extrapolating based on things I know from Act 3, and I don't want to do that. So
Okay, yeah, that's fair. We don't need to talk about it now. Maybe that's an Act 3 question.
yeah, because like with Orin, Gortash, and Ketheric being like the chosen of their various gods. I can see the writing on the wall. Let's put it
Well,
that way.
I guess I'm looking for like super broad scope. Is it a mistake to not know who your primary antagonists are until the second act of a trilogy?
Yes, I
I
think so.
yeah, I agree that it's a mistake in that the only thing that they ever mention them is like what Ben said. Like it's like you get like this weird vision, and then you see like three shadow figures, and it's super vague, and then like that shit gets flushed for the next 15 hours of experience, and like they never even try to build on that or anything. So it just goes from nothing to something.
Yeah,
Versus
and
like
Yeah.
Jaws, where the whole first half of the movie is not seeing the shark, but everybody's talking about it.
so I want to stop talking about this so that I do have stuff to talk about in question two because I do have some more to add to the conversation. But then I would have nothing
Okay.
for question two.
Yeah, maybe let's just skip around this question. I might have blown the gun a little too early on it. Did you guys all like Jahira's introduction? I'm mostly asking this for Ben and Thomas as boomers, but Sesh, you said you really liked Jahira. What was it about her that made you like her?
I think she's just like kind of funny and like kind of like a hard ass, but not like annoying about it.
Can I
Just kind of
ask,
like has
did you know that she was from the original Baldur's Gate games?
yeah, like so I didn't know like directly. I wasn't like, oh, that's Jahira from Baldur's Gate 2. But again, like since I have Karlach, she basically like tells you like the second that she shows. No, she shows up like before then. I think she even talks about Jahira like in Act 1 or something, where she says like Jahira is one of her inspirations or some shit. But yeah, so like I know because of Karlach, but and then I assumed that she was from a previous game because of like the way that they talk about her.
Yeah, you can go first, Ben.
Yeah, I love her introduction, because it tells you everything you need to know about her, even if you don't
Yeah,
know her from the previous games. Like how she's like cautious and wary, and it's like all the way through. She's very meticulous with your interrogation when you first get there. And I do want to give a shout out to like the way that they designed the good and evil playthroughs, because I remember every time I did a good playthrough, I felt like Marcus just comes out of fucking nowhere, right? But like when I played an evil
yeah,
playthrough, he comes less out of nowhere, and he has
Yeah,
like a actual reason to be there, and that's what I would have never known if I never did an evil playthrough. But going back to Jahira, like it still goes on. Like even after you've earned her trust, she invites you inside, and then she makes you drink the wine, and it's just like she's very consistent. All and her dialogue is fucking great. Her voice acting is great, and also there's like one part that cracked me up. I think this is Act Two. It's n- wait, no, is this like a when you talk to her in camp? Never mind. I'm not going to elaborate. It's because I think it is a camp conversation, which means it's not Act Two.
yeah, I think Ben pretty much nails it. I think
yeah,
that they 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 did not do Jahira dirty in this game. I feel like they stuck very well to who Jahira is from Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, which is an extremely intelligent, calculating, but very kind hearted person who is just capable of getting shit done. And that comes across as Jahira from like the moment she opens her mouth in her introduction. So I think they of all of the returning characters, they did her by far the best. IMO.
Yeah, I think I'm going to approach it a little bit differently since, like, from the tabletop perspective, since that's like my finesse compared to your guys' experience with Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. Like, whenever I'm playing a tabletop campaign, one of the first things you have to work on is like what factions are going to be in your campaign. Are you going to make your own? Are you going to use the official ones? Because the Harpers are the Harpers and the Zentarum are official, like, canonized factions in the game. And every single time I read a single thing about the Harpers in any official material, I just start falling asleep at the
yeah,
page. Oh my god, they're so fucking boring. And then you start reading about the Zentarum, and it's like, oh, Black Network, they got the serpent thing, they got passphrases, they got like all this shit going on with Manchun, who's not even in this game. It's like, oh man, all that shit's awesome. But despite all of that, Jahira really does bring you into the cause of the Harpers. Like, she feels like what a leader is supposed to be, and I truly, truly, truly think that the Harpers as a faction in this game would I wouldn't even remember their name right now if it wasn't for Jahira. She's that good at instantiating them as an important group in this game.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know too much about the tabletop shit, but as far as what you're saying about her, like being a leader and all that shit, I think that comes across really well in this game. Like I said, they do Jahira really well because next time we meet, I'm gonna have a lot of boomer shit to complain about, but Jahira, I have nothing to complain about whatsoever.
Did you guys have any other questions you wanted to ask here?
I had a question, but I forgot it.
Oh no. Was it Jahira related?
It's something that Tom said like a minute ago, but it's gone.
Well, I do want to follow up on the thing. I do want to follow up on the. Wait, you could have done the soundboard, Thomas.
My voice is the soundboard, bitch.
I wanted to follow up on one thing that I mentioned when we talked about Act 1, which is the only example of a thing in the game that I saw Larian did not anticipate the player doing. When you first get the last light in, Jahira figures out that you are infected because she has the tadpole and it reacts to you, right? And you'll pretty much always get that cutscene. I think it's like a pretty close to automatic trigger once you're in Last Light In. However, you can stealth into Last Light In, and you can do Halsin's quest before interacting and getting that cutscene. And then you take control of Halsin once he's in your party, and you walk into Last Light In, and oh my god, this game sucks. The Mind Flayer Parasite still reacts to Halsin as a character, even though he doesn't have Mind Flayer Parasite. This game sucks.
That's funny.
I thought you were going to say the opposite. I thought you were going to say they had a fucking like a use case for that, in which I was going to shit all over the floor right now. But
that would have been patently fucking absurd.
Yeah, exactly.
Nuts. I have a Jahira question, just out of curiosity. I did not actually play with her as like a combat character at any point in Baldur's Gate 3. What did they make her default class? This is just like a
Some kind of druid.
Yeah,
boomer curiosity question.
She's
Yeah,
like a
she's just like a
caster druid.
She's like a druid fighter.
it's like a caster druid. At least that's what I'm doing. Like she has like Ice Storm or whatever that shit's called.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's just druid. Every time I never really like attack with her, I just wild shape, so I'm actually not sure, but I think it's just druid.
She dual wields. I don't know if that changes
Yeah,
anything.
scimitars.
Yeah,
But no, she's not a fighter druid like she was in the original game. She's just straight druid, I
Just
think, unless you
druid?
respect
Okay.
her.
Okay. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
just boomer curious. So
The wiki just says Circle of Land Druid.
got it.
So I remember my question is something that like Seth said with like the lore and everything of like a bunch of like the characters and everything. I feel like this game doesn't really like tell you what's going on with like the backstory of things unless you really go digging for it. I don't know if that's just me and if I'm like looking in the wrong places, but like I don't really know what's going on with like a lot of the characters if they don't just like say things to you.
When you say backstory, what do you mean?
You know how like there's like notes and shit in the game where you would think
Yeah.
that that's where it's going to tell you a lot about like the world and stuff, but then it's just like 3 lines of it being like, "Daddy, thank you for taking me to school. Signed, your daughter," or whatever. There's no like actually like world setting or anything with kind of like the like environmental kind of like emails and shit that you would see in other games.
You don't agree with that. I think maybe you like maybe they show up in specific places, I'm not sure, but if you read a lot of like the books, like the books specifically will give you a lot of the world building. I mean, if you're just reading like notes, right? Like think about what a note is. It's going to be a fucking Christmas list from a 9-year-old. But if you actually read a lot of the books, especially in like the library in Shar or in the Gauntlet of Shar and all that shit, that'll give you a ton of background information. And like I don't know where they show up, but I know for a fact there's a bunch of books that will just straight up tell you like the entire story of what happens in Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. But there's like tons of world building that's done in the background. This is why I was asking, because I wasn't sure if you meant like the actual like story of the game or the plot of the game, or if you just meant like that background radiation
Yeah.
world building. Because I feel like there's like an overwhelming amount of that stuff.
I think I now realize
I
my
mean-
problem is keyboard mouse and it's tough to figure out what you can loot in an environment.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of like subtle things they do too. Like there's or like maybe not, maybe subtle's not the right word, but like even like more visual storytelling almost, where like there's a grave you can go to outside of the Gauntlet of
Yeah,
Shar, and you find the wedding ring, and you have to like find the matching wedding ring or something like that. That
exactly.
like it tells you a lot about the two people that were buried at these places, but also I mentioned in another episode a while ago that I forget what the game was, but it needed a Ketheric Thorm. I think it was when we were talking about Torment. It needed a Ketheric Thorm that kind of ties all three acts together. And the reason I said that is because even though Ketheric is only introduced in Act 2, you actually get a lot of information about him if you read like the books and notes like Thomas is talking about. Like there's a lot of notes in Act 1 that like go into very great detail about Ketheric's worship of Selûne and like some more subtle stuff about
Oh,
like why he abandoned Selûne and then took on Shar and then abandoned Shar after he died and then took on Merkel afterwards. And like stuff like that I think is really interesting. You're kind of right that it might be a little bit too in the background, but I think there is a lot there.
yeah. I think literally my problem is just that I'm on keyboard mouse and like area looting is fucking impossible. Like I probably leave so much shit on the ground and everything because holding down Alt doesn't show it, and that's GG.
Well, I mean, I will say though, like if there's like a bookshelf or something, odds are there's gonna be shit on there to read, and odds are that's gonna fill you in on some like
Yeah,
some detail on something. So like, there's a lot of bookshelves in the game, and there's a
Yeah,
lot of books in the game.
and like don't get me wrong, I like I said, it when I say this stuff is subtle, I also mean that it is just hard to find. Like there are entire side quests in this game that are hard to find, let alone a
yeah,
random book in a random
right.
Yeah.
alcove in a random area, you know?
Yeah, and that's why I'm
True.
saying too that it's like it's kind of overwhelming as well because like there are a fuck ton of books and like some books may like literally describe the entire first Baldur's Gate trilogy in like excruciating detail, setting up the entire canon for what led into Baldur's Gate 3, and then a lot of other books are just going to like fucking describe a recipe for cake or
Yep.
some
Yeah,
shit.
exactly. Yeah, I feel like the books that I'm thinking of right now are like fucking like alchemic books that I found in like the fucking tower in Act One and shit, where it just told you like shit
Yeah,
about
well,
build making shit.
and those I think a lot of those like the reason why those stick out is because I think since those are recipe books they add to your alchemical like index, meaning and also they show up when you press alt, so they stick out like a sore thumb,
Exactly.
whereas like a lot of the books just sitting on shelves and shit you just kind of gotta hover over them and
Yeah,
right click
Wait,
read or whatever.
the books on bookshelves don't show up with alt?
don't think so.
None of them, yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
my
alt
god,
is
what
so
the
bad, dude.
fuck?
It's fucking
How did
crazy.
how did you even do the library in the Gauntlet of Shar?
Which one's the
uh
library?
the where you get the spear. First time I played this game, dude, this game took me, I think, like 90 hours to beat the first time because I was very meticulous and I read everything.
Isn't the library just? Is that where you just jump over the panels and pull the levers?
No, the library was the one where you had to find the book and insert it into the slot to get the door to open.
Yeah, with the librarian enemy and like the little zombie dudes that are wandering around in there.
Why don't I remember this at all?
It's the room where you're silenced until you destroy like the little ball in the center of the room.
Every single bookshelf was trapped.
Did you get the
You
spear?
have to do this, right?
You
Did
do
you
not
did
have
you
to
get the
do it.
spear?
Yeah,
How,
I had a spear. She
how
threw that shit away. Yeah,
No, no, not the one when you go down to the night song. Did you have another spear leading up to that that didn't have a cutscene?
maybe. I mean, what you
Like
guys are talking
it
about
was a
doesn't
name. It was a. Oh yeah.
Did you
Okay,
have
you didn't do
to
the library then.
did you have to insert a book into a pedestal?
I don't remember doing that. It may, like I'm gonna have to like find this because I
What the
don't. That
fuck spear
Do
does
you,
Shadowheart throw away then?
do you? No. Okay. So this is the spear that you get in that cutscene. I'm pretty sure, or not. Sorry, not in that cutscene. The spear that you get in the library is a fake one. It's not like the actual spear of night from
Wait,
Shar, because
really?
Shar is fucking like that. When you get there, the spear of night manifests in Shadowheart's hand as the true one because this is like it's time. It's time to prove yourself.
I didn't
What
know this
the
at all.
hell? What's the point of the library then?
I don't. I didn't go to
Shar
the
is Shar,
library.
dude.
What the fuck's the library? I don't know what that is.
Well,
It's
Dude,
not a trial, right?
It's not
Okay.
we've described
important
it
at
to you.
all.
I
Is it
mean,
a trial? It's not a trial, right?
I'm confused
It's
because I thought Shadowheart will literally leave your party if you don't do that.
so
Like,
in the Gauntlet of Shar, there's 3 trials where you get the 3 orbs. You
Yeah,
remember
I did
right?
those.
There's a 4th one that's a big library. In the center of it, it's like you start at the top and you go down. It's like a big auditorium almost. At the middle of it is a big black orb that silences the entire room because you're in a library, right? And there's like 5 or 6 skeletons that you fight. You walk around. You have to press a button to open a big old gate. And then there's a bunch of like bookshelves. They're all trapped. And to solve the puzzle, you have to get the right book and put it into the
Hey
pedestal.
guys, I didn't do any of that.
That's crazy because like I swear to God,
about.
when you put in that first umbral gem that like activates the elevator, Shadowheart just straight up says like, "Hey, I want to become a Dark Justiciar, and in order to do that, there's a spear around here, and I need to go get it." And I thought if you just ignore her and go on the elevator and just continue on, she will get pissed and leave. I thought that was like a thing that happens.
It might be like an approval thing. Like maybe if maybe she feels more strongly about that if she doesn't like you or whatever.
That's
But
crazy. I've never
all
not done
I
that.
know, the reason I said that I think that spear is fake is because there are 2 different items that are spears of night, and there's the one you get in that room, and then there's a second one that is much more powerful if you become a Dark Justiciar.
Well, I thought that it just like levels up if you kill the Night Song, right? That's when it becomes like the +3 spear with the fucking like blindy power buff thingy on it.
It might replace it. I'm not sure.
I can tell you factually it replaces it.
Okay, yeah, but you like get that spear even if you didn't have the one in the room.
Yeah, that part I didn't know. That's crazy. What the hell? Mind blown, bruh.
Still be finding new stuff every time you play. Like I found new shit in the Mind Flayer colony this playthrough.
Okay, I have a Catherick Thorm question, which just dawned on me today, actually. So I know that he worshipped Selune, and then I know that obviously he began worshipping Shar because, like, I mean, it's kind of self-evident based on getting into the Gauntlet of Shar. What was like the transition from him going from Shar worship to Merkel worship? Like, I mean, I know it was like wanting to resurrect his daughter or whatever, but like, what was like the motivation behind each of those things? Like, why leave Selune and then why leave Shar?
I could have my timeline wrong, but I'm pretty sure he died and he was like resurrected as the chosen of Merkel afterwards. And his abandonment of Shar was less to do with abandoning Shar and more to do with going to Merkel because Merkel res his daughter.
I thought that he turned to Merkel to resurrect his daughter. I didn't think that he died. I thought that the whole thing was like Isabel died and he lost his shit and he was like, "Well, fuck Char, it's Merkel time," like that meme of the guy looking back at the hotter girl or whatever. And that was what led to it. I didn't think he died.
I just AI
Per
overviewed it and he
yeah
died apparently.
Oh
yeah
shit.
per yeah. If you read I think there's a bunch of like books and notes and shit and Rythwin that go over Rythwin being very pissed off at Ketherick for the curse that he unleashed upon the land. So they killed him, and then he's resurrected by Merkel.
So did Char curse the land just because she was pissed at Ketherick?
No, I think part of the reason the curse came was Ketherick's worship of Shar. Like that's kind of intrinsically tied to it.
Oh, okay, I see.
And then it just lingered afterwards because she's a petty bitch and she'd be like that. I think
Got it.
I think like part of it more specifically is Shar kind of like reclaiming that land as hers because the entire area were Selenite followers. She was like, "Nah, you guys are going to be stuck in darkness now."
Yeah. Yeah, I was just confused because like it was only this playthrough where I like actually managed to put together like, wait, why is there a Sharan like temple dedicated to Ketherick when he's a Merkel man? So I'm slow on the uptake is basically what I'm trying to say. I just couldn't uh,
No, yeah,
rationalize it.
I think it is something that to bring it back to like criticisms of the narrative is like I really like the idea of Ketheric being this like jumping from god to god to god. Nightsong kind of calls him out for it, but the way it's presented does leave a lot of holes that are kind of difficult to follow as we are discussing right now, you know?
I think that there's a like pragmatic reason for that, which is if they want to explain all of that shit, it required voice acting for this game.
That's fair.
That makes sense.
Okay. Anything else for narrative you guys want to do, or shall we go into the questions?
Questions work for me.
Yeah, same.
Gonna make sure that I pasted these in the same order that I have them in my notes. Yes. Okay. How does the suite of abilities, resources, and items affect your gameplay experience? Are there too many options of varying quality, meaning incredibly broken stuff that causes you not to use worse stuff? Does it hit a sweet spot, or do you not care? Did your feelings on this change between Act 1 and 2, and why or why not? Why don't we start with Ben?
So, speaking from a UX perspective, it's probably super overwhelming, probably more so on keyboard and mouse and controller, the sheer amount of things that you get in Act 2. That being said, I do generally enjoy like all the different options. Even more so, I feel like there's like a couple of power spikes you have in this game. The first one, which is in Act 1, I think is like level 5, I think. That's like extra attack for all your melees. You finally get an AoE spell for your wizards and stuff like that. But in Act 2, like you start getting into like level 4 and 5, you get a lot more varied options. Also, your class kits, like one of the new ones that I'm doing that I never did before was like one of the new classes. I think it's like Shadow Sorcerer, and
Yep.
I'm definitely underutilizing it. But like the differing amounts of like strategies you can have just by having like a summon on your sorcerer is pretty cool. Even though I've never really used it because it requires not requires, but incentivizes you to use like different elements. So they probably expect you to have like all the different cantrips, but I just use Eldritch Blast. So it's really just an extra body to distract. But even then, like you also get a lot more summons too, which I think also count as like additional resources that you get in this act. Like you get us and actually that might be it. But us is probably like one of the better ones.
I mean, there are a lot of like neutral party members too, like all the harpers and shit like that.
Well, not in my playthrough, because you know. But yeah, in a normal playthrough, yeah, you do get those guys. Um, I think holistically, it can be a problem to have like all these different things, not be necessarily because it's overwhelming, which it can be probably, but more so because I feel like it can upset the balance of like the resource management because in Act One, we already talked about how it was a problem that you might not long rest enough to get a lot of the really cool and sometimes, in my opinion, critical cutscenes. But in Act Two, like you just get so much more, like that you just never need to rest. And also, I kind of lied earlier where I said I didn't try anything new in this playthrough, but I have actually never played a bard before. So Minthara is a bardidin, and I don't really use the paladin stuff all that much actually. But one thing I will say is the bard gets that ability that says like you basically get a third short rest, and I just I've actually had to like force myself to long rest like repeatedly
Oh
just to
yeah.
make sure I got all the cutscenes because of like even in my other playthroughs without having used the bard, it was already a problem not resting ever. But like that just amplified it. It made me like actively like go against my natural senses of playing a game like this where I want to min max that kind of stuff where I'm just like no I do need these cutscenes because I care about like certain narrative beats, so I would just find a point where I like basically this is kind of like a this is absolutely like min maxing, but like if you ever know that you need to long rest, that's the time where you just rest repeatedly right after that because like the long rest is the one that matters, the one that you use your food for, and then you just do a bunch of like regular not long rests, the rest where you don't eat to get all the cutscenes. So that's what I did, and I feel like I mean I didn't have to do that, but I did, and it's because like you just have so many resources that you never need to rest ever.
Yeah, you saying that actually made me totally forget about Song of Rest from Bards because this is my first playthrough in a while not having one, and that thing absolutely just fundamentally changes your like day to day resource management in this game. And it's also really funny comparing it to tabletop because that is absolutely just the most useless ability bar none in tabletop. It is trash.
Yeah, this is my first playthrough playing with a bard, and yeah, that ability is like fucking OP. Not OP, but like very nice convenience factor to it.
How about you, Thomas?
So I think if you would have asked me before this playthrough if there were like too many abilities and it was overwhelming, I would have absolutely said yes. Um, but while I think that maybe that's true for certain like caster classes, like a cleric maybe, in this playthrough, I actually bothered to press the K key on my keyboard and set up all of my bars with abilities in like a very specific way that catered to what I was doing with all of my characters. And what I found was there's actually not that many abilities on these fucking characters. Now, a big caveat to that statement is the fact that I'm literally playing 4 martial classes right now. Well, and a paladin, I guess. But um, like it's pretty funny how I would have initially thought that there's way too many abilities, it's way too overwhelming, there's so much visual clutter, and that's just because I never knew to turn off the auto add skills and spells button in the fucking options because it just adds them in this like haphazard random fucking way that just makes it so hard to parse out in the PC or in the keyboard mouse UI like what all of this shit is. So, like once you actually kind of streamline your bars and set them up and like kind of throw out all of like the useless bullshit that you're never going to cast because it just kind of comes with the cleric territory or whatever. There's really not that many, and it's really just a fault of the way that they default set up the keyboard mouse UI, which is just the most dog water, poopy butt shit on the planet. Which says nothing to the fact that today something fucking broke all of the work I put into building those bars, and I don't know why, because literally all of my skills reset and turned into gobbledygook again, which uh, pissed me off really bad. Let's just say that. But overall, like I think a lot of it is if you actually go through all of your abilities and all of your spells and realize that you're really just going to use a handful of these, there's really not that many. You have access to a shitload, but you're not casting nearly all of them. And like especially with like my monk, right? The monk is pressing like 3 different buttons. Even though I have 10, I'm barely pressing any of those. Same thing with bard. Bard has a shit ton of spells. I have like all of these different flourishes for melee and ranged, but really at the end of the day, I'm pressing like 4 of these buttons. So I guess I settle on the fact that maybe there are too many and maybe it is a little bit overwhelming, but if you put a little bit of time into just setting up your bars the right way, it goes a long way to giving you peace of mind in fighting with the shitty keyboard mouse UI.
Do you think that like kind of having that struggle of managing all of it but having more options is better than having fewer options?
Restate that in a way that doesn't confuse me.
Would you rather, for your gameplay experience, have to manage that UI so that you have more options, or would you rather just have fewer options and not have to manage the UI issues?
No, I wouldn't want them to flatten the complexity because, like, even though, like, I have access to a ton of shit and I'm only using a few of the shit, I still put all of the shit on the bars. I just put them in a way that's just kind of like a little more out of sight, out of mind, but I know that it's there. So if there's ever like some weird corner case where I want to try something, I think it's important that they're there because I know that they're there, and if I want to try to do something with them, then it's good that I have access to them.
Gotcha. How about you, Sesh?
Still for your same question one, right?
Yeah, the suite of abilities that you have.
Yeah, yeah. For me, it's like still pretty overwhelming, but like dropping Gale, so I don't have to deal with like going through wizard spells was nice, and then also just playing on the easy difficulty, where basically all I have to do is just like walk up and use one ability on everything, and they just all die. And a lot of times, that's basic attack helps a lot, and yeah, I just think there's like a huge learning curve. If you don't have any like D&D background or anything for this game, but like luckily, I think journalist difficulty uh, like kind of solves that issue quite a bit.
Would you say that some of that is like what are your overall feelings on that? Is that hurting your experience, or is it mitigated by the fact that it's reduced in complexity because of the difficulty slider?
I wouldn't say it's hurting. I wouldn't say I'm having a worse experience. I would say I'm having a less engaged gameplay experience than you guys are because the amount of like work that I would need to put in to like engage with it would like almost feels like the amount of work that I need to put in like to learning Japanese. Like it feels like a like an actual skill that I would need to learn in order to interface with the game in a way that like the game like wants you to in a way that is like proficient and like min max basically. And so yeah, instead of doing that, I just take it down. So I get like less of a gameplay experience, but like I like the narrative and kind of everything else going on enough that I don't think it's like a truly worse experience overall.
But I'm sure you would say it would be a far worse experience if it didn't give you the explorer option and suddenly the game was
Yeah,
like Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 or like fucking Wrath of the Righteous 3E shit like that.
yeah, I think it would be much worse, definitely from like a tedium perspective too, of just like having to interface with the system that like yeah, basically just like beating my head against the wall into figuring out, or just googling fucking builds or like good items or something to like actually find rather than just kind of vibe through the game.
So I will say that to some extent I do agree, but I think if you just kind of spent like I don't know 45 minutes giving yourself like a decent baseline for the rules of fifth edition and like the way that the dice rolls work and the way that saves work and the way that armor class works and just kind of like the very like basic just umbrella. uh, the only real tedium is going to be just literally reading the spells to see what they do, which even I have to do. Like I cannot tell you exactly how many fucking damage dice you roll when you fucking cast Fireball, for example, and that's like one of the most basic spells there is. I think it's 6d6, but I'm not even sure if that's right. But like yeah, exactly. It's fucking 8d6. So, like, I think once you just have a really basic grasp of the rules, then the rest just kind of fills itself in. Like, as you like here's my process, right? Because, like I said, I do not know what every single spell does off the top of my head. When I level up and I get access to like a new level of spells, like let's say I get like level 4, level 5 cleric spells or whatever, I am not going to know what each one of those do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hover over each of them. And if the name sounds cool, then I'm going to read them. I'm going to judge a book by its cover, and if that skill sounds cool, I'm going to fucking use it. I'm going to bend that skill to my will to make it do what I want it to do, which is like kill the enemies or like whatever, right? And I think that this is like a really good game at giving you that power to just like leverage almost anything in a way that can like be productive for what you're trying to do in the game. But like I said, if you don't have just like the general background and just the rule system as a whole, that's just fucking impossible because when you know the rules, you can just eyeball a spell and be like, if this save is like too high, this is dog shit. If these damage dice are too low, it's dog shit. But again, if you don't know what any of that means, then you're just going to be trying to use like shit spells that just fucking suck. But even with that, you can still make them work in some way or another most of the time, unless you're trying to like fucking acid spray everything to death the whole game or something.
There, you just made me think of something that actually does frustrate me about like the number of abilities, and it does have to do specific more so with spellcasting, specifically concentration. I don't like that there's so many of them when you really can only
Yeah.
use 1 by the nature of how the mechanic works.
Yeah,
I think
that's
I think concentration is actually a pretty bad mechanic. IMO. I feel like a lot of especially the lower level concentration spells are very low impact, and when your concentration is broken, it fucks you up.
I think it's kind of a problem of the adaptation because I think when you have a much broader range of choices in like you do in tabletop, 'cause, like you can just choose anything, you can make shit up if you want to. Then I think that issue is much less prominent. But like concentration spells are typically going to be like pretty flashy, pretty powerful, like Spirit Guardians, for example. And obviously, those are the ones that they're going to want to bring into Baldur's Gate 3 because they're iconic, they're powerful, they're fun. But that means that you have like, if you have like a 50-50, like 50% concentration, 50% non concentration arrangement of spells, then that's going to mean it's way too heavy on the concentration side for exactly the reason you guys are saying. I think that's a fair call out. But no, yeah, I agree with a lot of what you guys said. I don't have a ton to add, but I just want to comment that I think that, and this is kind of self-inflicted, but I think that repeated honor mode playthroughs have led me to uh, feeling like part of the reason I put that bit in about varying quality is because I feel like honor mode really forces you and pigeonholes you into certain builds. And like, yeah, there's some variety that you can do, but like you're going to struggle a little more if you don't have a Tavern Brawler Monk. You're going to struggle a little bit more if you don't have like a Radiant Orb build. And like I said, kind of self-inflicted, but I feel like when you push a game to its limits in terms of difficulty, that's when you're going to see some of things pop out. And I just think that I don't want to say that the game is unbalanced. It probably is, but yeah, I just think when you're on honor mode and you're forced into those playthroughs, it kind of gets old after a while. And I wish there was a little bit more build variety in terms of like what was reasonable to do for things like the Apostle of Merkel and shit like that, because I truly don't think I have ever beaten that boss without a Radiant Orb build, for what that's worth.
I just felt like, and that's why I lowered the difficulty, because like after like 20 turns and he went back to full health, I was like, I have a fundamental problem with the build I'm using for this specific fight.
Yeah, and a lot of times, just because of how the games work, sometimes you get stuck in those builds because of the items that you like. Maybe you sold it to a vendor fucking ages ago, and now you can't get it back and shit like that.
Yeah, very true.
Okay, go ahead and move on to question 2. Wait, gotta double check. This is the one I have in order here. Yep. With the story now fully underway, do Acts 1 and 2 connect well to each other narratively and artistically? How did the wait for the narrative payoff, meaning how long the game waited to tell you what the core conflict would be, affect your experience? Consider connecting this back to the tonal shift we discussed from the Nautiloid to the Emerald Grove environs. I kind of shot myself in the foot with this one and overwrote some of these questions into the narrative section. So if this one's a little bit shorter, it's okay. But Sesh, why don't you go ahead and start?
Yeah, I think I think it's kind of feels like pretty disconnected. Like I feel like Act 1 kind of operates like on its own almost, because like it could go basically anywhere from there because of how like open-ended it basically is, without like the introduction of basically anything that comes in Act 2. And so I think they feel like pretty like separate, and almost to the point of where like I don't give a fuck about like the Gortash and Orange shit yet, and like our like because the Elder Brain means nothing to me, right? Like the first time they said Elder Brain was my first introduction to what an Elder Brain even is. So I don't know if you guys have like a oh shit, it's an Elder Brain moment like that I would miss out on because of just not being familiar with the world or anything. But yeah, that, to me it was just kind of like okay, I guess I care about this now.
I think just commenting on that, like even if you know what an Elder Brain is, I think what exactly is going on with it is pretty surprising. Like if there are illithids, there's going to be an Elder Brain. That is like typically understood if you play tabletop. But the thing that makes it the like big scary monster that it is the thing that wouldn't be in tabletop, which is the crown of Karsus that it has on its head that they're using to manipulate it and shit. So I think they
Gotcha.
still like have some unique stuff going on, so you're not totally missing out.
Yeah, because like an Elder Brain in fucking 5th edition is what, like CR 14 or something. It's not like some like wacky, crazy, apocalyptic fucking monster, but having the fucking crown makes it this like world ender fucking thing.
Yeah, they're the kind of thing that you don't want anywhere near your water supply, but if they're off in BFE, then you're probably good.
Wait,
Just
so why is
your
the
brains.
crown the problem?
Uh, you might talk to Gale a little bit about it and learn more about it in Act 3, but it's just like a super powerful artifact that both makes it a lot stronger than it already is and also allows Ketheric Warren Cortash to control it with those
Gotcha.
stones.
Yeah, they talk about it at the end of Act Two, but it's basically like a crown that was made by the Netherese, who are just like this ancient civilization who were like mega super duper like attuned to magic, and yeah, they put that shit on an elder brain, and now they're manipulating it.
Got it.
Thomas, you want to go next?
Yeah, unfortunately, I kind of shot my load a bit at the beginning of the narrative section here because I forgot about the question, but I don't have a ton to add to what I said, but um, I guess I'll just kind of restate it, which is I think they really should have laid more of a groundwork in Act One for what was going to come in Act Two. Um, and I think I understand some of the reason, like again, from like a production perspective for why they did it, which was that I think they wanted to keep a certain amount of the overall story of the game kind of hidden while the game was in early access. And so, like, I mean, if you don't know, basically all early access was Act 1. The entirety of Act 1, every step of the way, is what early access was for this game. So I don't think they wanted to lay out too many like obvious breadcrumbs necessarily, or they at least wanted to like keep you guessing going into Act Two, which is like the only way I can justify the lack of foundation for Act Two. But like I mentioned before, like the fact that they don't clue you into anything about what happens in Act Two, and then you go down into like underneath Moonrise Tower, and this like fucking Orin like clown looking bitch is there. This fucking like grizzled nerd is there, and then Ketheric is there, and like it doesn't feel as much as of like a holy shit reveal as much as it is like a who the fuck are these nerds and why should I give a fuck, which I think is a really like bad reaction to like a big reveal for who the like main triumvirate villain trio is. So again, just going from nothing, 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 Dead 3, Elder Brain, marching on Baldur's Gate, go!
Yeah.
Was just like really abrupt and jarring, especially given, by the point that we get there, it's like 30 hours into a game, right? So I think a lot of that is just pacing issues. I think even if they hadn't laid any sort of foundation in Act One, but they like kicked it into high gear immediately in Act Two, then it would have been a little better. But they don't really do that. Because like they don't really do that until everything that happens with the night song, and that's like literally the end of Act Two. So it's just pacing issues. I think it's not wanting to give you too much in the early access portion of the game, and it could have been made better. Let's just put it that way.
Agreed. No notes. Well said. Ben?
Yeah. I have a lot written down. I'm not sure if I answered this question the same way as everyone else. I kind of concentrated specifically on like the sequence of events from near the end of Act One throughout Act Two. And I do think, I guess to speak a little bit more positively about it, I think that if, and this isn't that positive, it's because if you are like a, not necessarily a min maxer, but let's say like it's like your second or third playthrough and you kind of already know everything, if you experience the game in like a completionist way, in sort of like a linear way that you guys were saying before about Act Two, where like the critical path, the linearity to it is like really good. Am I putting words in people's mouths, or is that kind of like the general sentiment here?
No, I agree. I do think Act 2 is good from a critical path perspective.
Okay, well, I'm going to throw a wrench into that. I'm going to tell the story of my very first playthrough. So, in my very first playthrough, I went to the creche first before the Underdark. I did the whole creche, and you know how when you technically the Emerald Grove and the creche or the monastery are like two different areas that are connect. Like if you travel in between them, you're forced into a long rest, even if they don't tell you.
Right.
So if you do that, if you do the crush first, and I went to travel back to act like the other Act 1 areas so I could go to the Underdark, which I didn't go through yet, you're forced into a long rest and you get this cutscene with Voss and he like gives you all this information and you end this cutscene with Lae'zel going like, "Don't worry about everything. We're gonna go to Baldur's Gate and we're gonna go find Ketheric Thorm." And my question right after that was like, "Who the fuck is Ketheric Thorm?" So, um, I think due to like the open-endedness of the systems, like, and I feel like this will affect first-time players a lot more. You might get like a really fucked up sequence of like story events, depending on how you go through it. Or like if you skip something, like if you skip the crash, I feel like, well, I feel less strongly about it now, but I still feel like there's like a lot of like, if not important, at least like really cool stuff and information you learn there. But let's move on to the rest of this, which is the rest of my first playthrough going into Act 2. So this is right after. I do want to mention that the fact that they give you that cutscene that is kind of like mandatory, where they say like, "Go to Moonrise Towers, find Ketheric Thorm." I think you have to see that cutscene. So at the bare minimum, regardless of how broken your path to it was, you do go into Act 2 with the information you need. Go to Moonrise Towers, find Ketheric Storm. When I first got into Act 2, the first thing I noticed was the Shadow Curse. And whatever I was thinking before, not important anymore. The most important thing was to immediately go to Google. How do I fix this? Because I'm gonna uninstall the game unless I can fix this fucking curse. So that led me down through this whole rabbit hole where instead of going to Moonrise Towers, instead of going to meet Ketheric Thorm, I went to Last Light. I did the whole thing with the Drider. I freed the fairy, and then I still stuck around Last Light. I found out about Art Kolag and the whole curse thing, and that was very compelling to me. So I just, again, instead of going to Moonrise Towers, instead of meeting Ketheric, I did the whole quest line with Oliver, all that, and then I ended up going to the House of Healing, and I go more north, and I see Raphael. I was like, oh, that guy's cool. He gives me this whole quest line about going to Gauntlet of Shar. I do the whole Gauntlet of Shar, and then I get that message where it's like, if you proceed, this is the point of no return. And then I was like, this is when I went into like text message. I think that's how we were talking about this game back then. We were like texting each other, and I was like, is this a point of no return? I haven't gone to Moonrise Towers yet, and everyone's like, that's literally the first thing you're supposed to do is go to Moonrise Towers. So after I do the Gauntlet of Shar, I finally, for the first time, get to Wraithwind Town to go to Moonrise Towers, and then I start finding about all about like Ketheric's relatives. But it was like a really weird experience for me. Like I felt like Ketheric was a lot less cool than me in that playthrough because while I was learning about his relatives and his backstory, in the back of my mind, I already knew about like the whole overarching like main story about like the Gauntlet of Shar. So I was learning about Ketheric, but like I didn't know it was supposed to be more important to me at the time. So I guess to kind of summarize all that, um, I think that if you do like a completionist kind of intended critical path through the game, I think that the connective tissue between Acts 1 and 2 it holds up pretty well. But if you bumble around and do like all these self-inflicted problems, you can have a very unique but not necessarily good experience in Act 2.
Yeah, I I never quite considered getting in and doing the Gauntlet of Shar before ever going to Moonrise. That is very unique, and
That's
like
pretty
hardly even
funny.
going to Wraithwind Village. Like I can only imagine what the look on my face would have been if I saw Balthazar with no context of who he
Yeah.
was or
Oh,
anything.
I will give the writers credit. They account for that. So I killed Balthazar, and when I went to Moonrise Towers, Zerel was like grilling me. Like she asked me like, no, I think I brought it myself to her that I knew Balthazar. She's like, really? She tries to like telepathically like send a message to either him or someone that like can communicate with him. But since he's dead, she's like, oh, he's not like returning my psychic call. I'll just take your word for it. You're cool
That's
now.
funny.
Man, that's good stuff.
That's really interesting.
So one thing I will say is that I do think that the way that the game kind of flip flops its priorities between Acts 1 and 2 is pretty interesting. And the way I was thinking about it, like the way you described your experience with Act 2 kind of like shoots what my thoughts were in the foot. Because what I was thinking was like Act 1, I think the game gives you like a blank page, right? And a lot of what you can do in Act 1 is just like whatever the fuck you want to stumble on and do. And then Act 2 is when it kind of like zooms in and focuses way, way, way more on that critical path. So, like, even though Act 1 has like some critical path items, I would struggle to define exactly what the Act 1 critical path is meant to be, if there is even meant to be one. Whereas in Act Two, it feels like pretty clearly defined. And it's funny to hear how I thought that was clearly defined. You managed to find a way to circumvent that fucking entirely.
It all started with the shadow curse. It was a problem that needed immediate solving.
Well, I think it's still really interesting, like because I always think of Act Two as like super linear generally. Like maybe that's because I tend to do a lot of the same things, like getting my fairy, going to Moonrise, killing the easy people, go do Gauntlet of Shar, blah blah blah. But I think that even though that linearity is still pretty firmly there, I think like the railroad into the Gauntlet of Shar is pretty firm. I still think it's really interesting that there is so much dynamicism that broadly changes that critical path. Like we talked earlier about the Balthazar thing, that's a huge change. And I just think that Thomas, stop distracting me with chat. I have that pulled up while I'm trying to talk. Jesus. Yeah, that's all I have to say. Now I'm distracted. Fuck you, Thomas.
Yeah, I do think that like for what it's worth, I think it's a fine it's a fine trade-off for my first playthrough to be so fucking weird and for the game to just have like all these really open-ended systems cuz I think that to prevent something like my first playthrough's experience, you'd have to put in like some guardrails, which they could probably do it in a pretty like immersive way, but I think it just kind of like goes against like the spirit of like the design of the game. That I think it's fine that I can just have a fucked up first playthrough and that's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
for
it makes it
sure.
more memorable in
Yeah,
its own way.
I think the only thing really that would like fix any issue that I had is if so like they go through all of Act 1 talking about the absolute, the absolute, the absolute, the absolute. So I guess as I was like sitting here listening and thinking, like I guess there is something of a foundation because they are constantly shouting the absolute's name. The problem is just that they don't define what the absolute is until you see this big fucking brain at the end of Act 2. So I think if they would have just like found a way to more clearly define or make what the absolute is or what it stands for or who's behind it more of like a less of like a conceptual thing that these cultists are talking about and more of an actual threat, then I think that would have gone a long way to solving some of the problems of Act 2.
Yeah, like I think just for example, not to like tell them specifically what they should have done, but for example, it could have been interesting if you were like seeing illusory images, almost like the Dream Guardian, illusory images of what the absolute was, and it's like this, like monarchic, like almost Ketheric looking like heavy plated, intimidating figure of some kind. And then the big reveal at the end of Act 2 is actually that it's a big ass nether brain. Something like that to get you hooked on some idea of what the absolute was, I think would help with a lot of
Yeah.
what you guys are saying.
Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
like it's all mystery and no meat. So it's like there's nothing that really makes me feel like compelled to want to like journey on in order to kill the absolute. Because like the whole hook is like I got to get this worm out of my brain, and like my motivation is get worm out of brain. My motivation is not I need to stop the absolute because it's going to march on Baldur's Gate, and so
Hmm.
like your entire character's like impetus for existing. I think the reason why it's so jarring is because all of a sudden you don't give a shit about the tadpole, you give a shit about stopping this big ass brain, and the transition for that is not handled gracefully, IMO.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's pretty heavy-handed for when it just goes, yeah, to like self-serving to now I'm the hero that the world needs.
Yeah, except I'm not, dude, because I'm
Although,
already plotting with Minthara to fucking kill all these motherfuckers.
yeah, I mean, at least in that sense, I like how immediately a bunch of the characters like Asterion react like, "Oh, but think of what we could do with all that power." I'm glad that
Yeah.
that's in the game. Okay, you guys ready for question 3?
Sure. Yep.
Yas, queen.
All right, I'm excited for this one. I might take some notes on this myself for the homebrew campaign that I'm building. What makes a good villain? Do those qualities apply to Ketheric? Did you feel like the story around him and his family worked within the broader story? I think the only one we didn't start with was Thomas. So go ahead.
So I wish I would have sat with this question longer than I did because I kind of just threw together a response in like the 10 minutes leading up to when we got here. But what I did kind of spit out was like, as I was thinking about it, um, how do I phrase this? So when I think about what makes a good villain, I'm drawn less to like these simple depictions of quote unquote evil and more to characters who feel like tragic or inevitable or deeply human in some kind of way. So as I was going through this question, I thought of three villains, and I didn't want to like pick something from the same medium. So I picked one from TV and movies, one from a book, and one from video games. And so the three that I arrived on were Ole Munk from Fargo, which is a funny pick. That guy kind of
Like, who's
embodies
that?
this the bad guy from the season 5 who has
Oh,
dinner
okay.
with
Yeah.
Keeley at the end of the
Oh, hell
fucking
yeah.
yeah. So he like has this like folkloric like mythic quality to him where he's not just a man, he's like this force of nature who is just wrapped up in human flesh, and he's fucking terrifying because he just has this like total lack of escapability. Like once that guy sets his eyes on you, it's like he's just gonna fucking run at you, and there's just not shit you can do about it. But he's also very, 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 very deeply grounded in humanizing and religion, and like he's a very three dimensional villain. And then the second one I thought about um, was Nayur Urskiotha from the Second Apocalypse books, who I've mentioned a million times over the course of my life to people who have never read these books. But he's a lot harder to pin down because what makes him compelling is that like he is the most violent fucking character in any book ever, and obsession turns him into this monstrous figure, but it's all this inner torment and cultural baggage that render him this tragic figure and make him blur the lines between pro and antagonist. And like even as I sit here, if you grilled me on do I think he's a good guy or bad guy, it's like I don't know. I mean, if you transported that guy into our world, he'd definitely be a bad guy, but in his own, that gets a little more complex, right? And then the one I picked from video games, and don't worry, this is not a spoiler because I don't think his name is brought up a single time in Baldur's Gate 3, is John Irenicus from Baldur's Gate 2, who is a man who is just so twisted by loss and betrayal that he just turns into something cruel and insanely powerful, but his pain is grounded again in something very recognizably human. And so in each of these cases, the villain's menace is inseparable from their tragedy, right? Like they aren't just obstacles that are tacked on to a story, they are centralized figures who embody the story and like the story of the plot's deepest themes, right? So like when I think about the way that the three people that I just mentioned, right, how they are so deeply, deeply, deeply intertwined into their individual stories and plots and themes, bringing it back to Ketherick, like I do think that Ketherick is somewhat fits into this mold of like a human tragic figure, right? Like his daughter's death spirals him into this like grief that leaves him vulnerable, and Merkel exploits that and binds him into undead service or whatever, right? But personally, the thing that kind of disconnects me from elevating him to the level of the people I mentioned is that I'm not entirely sure that he really drapes himself in the themes of Baldur's Gate 3 this way. Now, I could be convinced because I don't really know that I necessarily have pinned down what the themes of this game's story are, to be honest. Um, but like one tragic character does not thematics make, right? But like I said, I could be convinced. So either way, I do think that he's a good villain, but I don't necessarily consider him like an all-timer. He obviously has a really, really fantastic performance. He has a compelling motivation, but I'm just not sure that he really gets like. I don't know if he just. It might just be a matter of the fact he doesn't really get the necessary screen or script time to flesh out that three dimensionality that is what I think separates him from like the other names that I mentioned and others I could think about as well.
Uh, Two super quick things. Number one, just touching on what you briefly mentioned about the themes of this game. I agreed with you for a very long time, and I might still agree with you on kind of the game meandering with its themes a bit. However, once we get through Act Three, I've actually been thinking the last couple days about that exact question. Like, what, we have it in our outline. What is this game about? What are the themes? And I have a really big one that I'm excited to talk to you guys about in the next act, just because I think I figured it out. I think I did. I just wanted to mention that because you mentioned the theming of this game. The second thing is kind of like um, when I do mine at the end, I kind of have like the qualities of a villain bullet pointed, and I just afterwards want to ask you guys a little bit like, did you think that what like your answer to this question, did you think that your answer to this question applies to the bullet points that I have? Because I'm asking you guys this selfishly for my own world building, so I'm trying to
Mm,
get a little bit of something out of this. So just kind of hang on to your own answers. Just keep that in mind. Ben, would you like to go next?
sure. So, I kind of thought of it like in two aspects, kind of like a villain's backstory and a villain's motivation. So, when it comes to like what qualities are good, I'm not too picky when it comes to backstory. Like, I've seen good examples of villains with sympathetic backstories and bad ones, and I've seen good villains that are just literally Hitler. So, um, that part of it can be either or. I think that Ketherick, if we're talking specifically about Ketherick, I'd say they do try to like paint him, as Thomas said, as like a tragic, kind of sympathetic figure, maybe a little bit, if you like get into the nitty gritty of his backstory. And as to whether it's done well, I think that the general consensus is that it's done well. I'm pretty indifferent to Ketherick in general, and I do feel like it's partly because of that first playthrough I ever had, kind of like tainting my opinion of him, where um, he's kind of just there. especially in a non-Dirge playthrough, I'm going to give him extra points if you are Dirge. When you first that part in his like throne room when you first meet him, um, the additional context that you get right away as Dirge, I feel adds quite a bit to him, and I feel kind of hard to say that he's a good villain without the Dirge information. To be honest, that's just my personal opinion. Um, that being said, going moving on to a villain's motivation, that one to me is a lot more simple. Like if you want me to think that your villain has a good motivation, then I think that your existence as a protagonist has to be a problem for that villain's agenda, where like your continued existence is a problem for him and he needs to get rid of you, regardless of whether he's sympathetic or not. And I think I don't know if they did a good enough job to make sure that you knew in your mind that he is a big enough problem that you have to take care of him because and he kind of like mentions it himself where like he kind of taunts you when you go down into the mind flare colony to fight him. He's like, you could have just fucking ran away, right? You have the prism. So like when he said that, I was like, he's kind of he's kind of right. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think I think he's a lukewarm villain, I guess, and he's kind of carried by the performance, at least for me. And I would say that if you were to describe him as good, or if I were to describe him as good, it would have to be with the Dirge uh, stuff to accompany him.
So I'm curious. I think your take's pretty interesting. First of all, I had the same thought when Ketherick brings up the prism. He's like, "Why didn't you just fucking go?" But one thing you said was that, um, and tell me if I interpreted this right, that for a villain to be good in your eyes, the protagonist has to like get in their way,
Not
and
necessarily, but your existence is a problem for him,
yeah.
willingly or
So
not.
so here's a question, right? Because like I also like I feel like when I was describing the villains that I liked, a lot of it is just that they have like a certain amount of emotional depth to them, but I also like villains that are just abjectly and nonsensically fucking cruel. Just like top to bottom evil, just absolutely no redeeming qualities, just absolutely just god awful. And so this is a name that's come up before, which would be AM from I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, who I think is a good villain, but is just like at no point threatened, at no point even like tempts the idea of any sort of like benevolent action or any sort of like emotional depth. He's just a fucking evil bastard the entire way through. And like I can think of other examples too, like Luca Blight from Suikoden 2, who I think are like really, really, really fucking good villains, but absolutely no redeeming qualities. And I guess Luca Blight's not as good an example as AM for this,
Yeah, but
but yeah,
Yeah,
like
AM's really good. AM kind of like I never even considered a villain. Like, and even though he's obviously a fucking villain, but like you're right, where like in comparison to him, the protagonists are like literally like amoeba. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
So
like they're just
yeah,
hopeless. There's just nothing that they can or ever will do.
yeah, I didn't think about that. So yeah, I guess you're right. I guess I can't like absolutely say that a villain needs what I described for a motivation, but it makes it a lot easier for my uh my face value brain to accept. You know what I
No,
mean?
yeah, no, for sure. And I will say that like villains like AM are the exception, right? Like there's
Yeah,
it's not a fun story to just see all of your protagonists just get tortured the entire time, right? Which is what I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream literally is. Like there has to be some kind of tension between the villain and the protagonist, and when you don't have that, it's just like watching a Saw movie without any sort of like redemptive ending, right? So I don't know. I just thought that was like an interesting thing to point out because it's not like a quality I'd ever thought of as being like intrinsically important to like the protagonist villain tension, which it absolutely is.
I also wanted to ask because you mentioned the stuff surrounding Dirge, Ben. are you still? This might be more for Thomas, but are you still of the opinion that I might be putting words in your mouth, but do you still feel like first playthroughs should be Tav, or do you feel like Dirge is just fundamentally better as like the main character?
If I feel like it definitively can't be a good one because there are just so many people. Like I think Sesh is one of these people that, and also I'm kind of like one of these people where like an evil playthrough is like pretty uncomfortable for me. So like, and not that because I've like it's full disclosure and why I don't want to like elaborate too much is I've already completed a Dirge playthrough doing the good version, so I kind of know what's gonna happen, what the context is. But it's like, uh, how do I explain this? I don't like. I still can't recommend, even if I think it's better. I can't recommend Dirge as the first playthrough.
Okay, I was just curious to follow up on that. Sesh,
I mean,
go ahead.
I agree with just like before I get into the answer. Like, I agree with Ben of like what he said of like, yeah, like just doing evil shit is just like uncomfortable to me, just like in general. So yeah, I think I would have like an actively bad experience if I was trying to do that. Unless like resist the urge, like unless you like basically have like a complete switch.
Yeah, I do mean like because like you can play a good playthrough as Dirge. I just mean like the way that Dirge ties into the main story is kind of what I was getting at.
Yeah,
Oh,
and you
okay,
can
gotcha.
you
Okay.
you can do a good Dirge playthrough, but it will still force you to do evil things
Yeah.
at least once.
But that's okay. Sesh, go ahead.
Yeah, so like for me personally, like not talking about like what makes a good villain objectively, but just like for me, what I like in villains is kind of like almost when the villain is kind of like self-contained in the main character, and it's basically just like a struggle of the main character in stories more than like an actual like entity with a backstory. Or if the character is used basically just as a way to build the like the protagonist in like their fucking ownage saga of like overcoming something. So like I don't there's not really any games that I can think of that I've played where I've been like, damn, the villain's fucking better than like the main character or like the characters that I've been journeying with. Um, yeah, so I think it's kind of just like a very simple, kind of like not very complex thing with like a villain relationship for me. So I think and then that respect, I think like Ketherick is like a good character to interface with, but I don't think he's necessarily a good villain. And I think it's mostly because it's going to kind of be like a little bit of Benedicta syndrome from like Final Fantasy 16, where like he's just kind of there for a little bit. When he is there, he's really good, but he's not really like the focus of anything. So then he's just going to disappear and then be gone. So I imagine like Act 3 is going to be almost nothing about Ketherick. So he's kind of just like this bridge character that I don't think really did a whole lot. But other than like he had like a very sick performance and like badass fucking like combat and shit like that. But like in terms of like the overall like story and everything, like I don't think that he's really gonna play like an integral part compared to what's gonna come up in Act 3.
So I have a question.
Go ahead.
So I want to go back to what you said originally, and I want you to define this for me because if what you were saying is how I interpreted it, I want to challenge you on it. And you said something to the effect of like, you've never really like, maybe connected is the wrong word, but like you never really gave a shit about a villain who ended up like being good or whatever, right? Um,
Not like a villain that didn't turn good, like a villain that stayed a villain.
yeah. Okay, so define that for me a little better, because I was trying to think of like, or I was thinking the way you said it was like you wouldn't like maybe when like the protagonist becomes the villain, right? Is kind of the way I was interpreting or reading between lines,
Um,
maybe.
I don't have any instances of like where I can even think where that happened to like comment on, so I'm
Near
not sure.
the first near game.
Uh,
I
no, I
Are
think
you
that's
talking
great.
about Shadow Lord being the villain, or like him being the villain in the broader story because of the shades?
I think both. I think like Nier is the Shadow Lord, and also Nier is like summarily murdering the Shades, right? Which does not make him a great person.
Yeah, him and the actual villain's motivations are identical.
One and the same, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's like a super complex story that I would say is like a kind of one-off thing though, but I think that's kind of like the style of villains that I say that like I like, where it's like you don't really know what's going on or things like that, and then they're basically like an extension of the main character or like some weird shit that's going on there is kind of like the preference. So like for me, like I think like Undertale has a good villain where like ultimately like it's kind of like all up in the air, and then like in Genocide like you're basically it. Like I think that that's cool. And then Amori, to not elaborate on that, but is a really good like the antagonist is like yourself kind of thing. You're just trying to break out from yourself. And then Expedition 33 is really cool that like the villain is like it's more of an antagonist than it is like a villain.
Yeah, like by the end, you could make the argument that any of the characters at the end of
Exactly.
Expedition 33 are the villain.
But I think that one's kind of like a special use case. I don't think
Well,
that that's like a fair broad strokes of like how this is how people do villains.
yeah, no, for sure. I think another example, and this game is not fresh in the memory by any stretch, but the way that I remember the Shadow of the Colossus ending is that like you go through most of the story trying to like rescue your girlfriend or sister or whatever the fuck she is, and then by the end of that game it's made pretty clear that like you are the invader of this land, and by like freeing this person you're basically fucking like dooming said land.
Yeah, I think that works really well because you don't build up good personal relationships with your main character or anything. It's for Shadow of the Colossus specifically. Like it's pretty like what the fuck ever. So it's like a cool turn there because you don't have like the biggest relationship you have in that game is with your horse. And you know, if you
Yeah.
played that game, you know what the fuck happens to that. So then you're like all your stakes are gone and everything. So when that happens, it's more like, oh, that's cool. You don't feel like you're like really betraying anything. You feel like you're more like left with this kind of like moral, like, oh shit, that's crazy kind of situation rather than like if you were with like companions the whole time and then at the end like you just kill all of them and you're like I'm the bad guy now, it'd be like that doesn't feel good.
Yeah, I was just curious because it feels like to me like what you described as liking in a villain is like so polar opposite from what I like. Where it sounds like you like villains as like kind of a like a like a
Protagonist builder.
yeah like a MacGuffin almost.
Exactly.
Like a Goku Vegeta, or am I oversimplifying?
Vegeta is a bad to good guy, which I think like I
Uh,
yeah, that's not like what I don't think that's a villain. Isn't there like a term
oh,
for
guys,
that?
you
I don't remember what they're called.
anti-hero.
Yeah.
Yeah, Vegeta's an anti-hero.
Yeah, which I think those are cool.
But
I think like redemption arc changes and stuff like that are cool, and like especially when it's good to bad, or even when it's
Yeah.
bad to good. As long as you don't feel like you betrayed what you were working towards basically the whole time, then I like that too. And it's
Yeah,
just really just case by case.
I think Jordan is describing Vegeta like when Vegeta was a bad guy, but then every subsequent Dragon Ball Z bad guy after that makes Goku want to go to like Super Saiyan 69,
Yeah,
basically.
they
Yeah,
just
that
the
makes
villain
sense.
just serve a purpose for like the protagonist to break through like a barrier, basically.
Yeah, so like
yeah,
you don't value like okay, I don't want to that sounds really strong, but like you don't value as much the journey of the villain as much as you do the journey of the protagonist, which is
And
interesting to me.
I think a lot of that though is just because I haven't been exposed to a lot of stories that kind of have that, right? Like with Xenosaga and whatever the fuck that guy's name is. I think he's another one, but I don't know enough about 2 and 3 to know like what the depth of that guy is. But yeah, I think
Talking
it's more
about
that I just don't have
Albedo?
exposure to those kind of stories to be able to like resonate and even know if I like them.
Yeah.
I'm glad you guys are bringing up some of these examples and kind of delineating between like villain, antagonist, anti-hero, anti-villain, because that's a little bit of what I want to dig into. I'm going to paste this into the chat for you guys' reference soon. But I want to start first by saying, again, I'm glad you guys were bringing up the villains, like villain versus anti-hero, for example, because I am specifically talking about a villain. I'm talking about, and I'm just spitballing these examples. I'm talking about your Dark Knight Jokers. I'm talking about your Hals from Space Odyssey, like characters that are just evil. They're not going to go through a redemption arc. They are there to be a villain, right? And so I'll paste this for you guys to have because, again, once I read these off, I want to just like turn it into kind of an open discussion and to workshop it a little bit. Like, tell me where I'm wrong, tell me what I could add, et cetera, and how your answers kind of relate to this. So I'll start with, and I only wrote this like literally as we were talking, so feel free to push back on this one immediately. A good villain is an antagonist which drives the plot forward, serves as a foil to the characters, and is something the heroes build themselves towards bringing down. I care less about this one, but do you guys feel like that's a decent like definition of what a good villain is?
I feel like that's literally like word for word what Jordan described. So
Yeah, it's funny.
I think another like personal character trait of a good villain is specifically antagonizing the main character. Like
Sure, yeah.
even if like the villain was once like a homie of them, and then they can constantly just be like, "Hey, remember that time we were homies? Go fuck yourself," kind of thing.
Okay, as long as we can agree on that, I'm more interested in the qualities.
I would say also that like in addition to that, because that's like a really like broad umbrella for what a good villain is, but I also think that a good villain can also, or like something a good villain also does is humanize the conflict from a different angle.
Yeah,
Oh, like if you
I think
like, yeah, like a different sides of the battlefield kind of thing.
Right. And like obviously someone like the fucking Joker isn't going to necessarily do that because
Yeah.
that guy's just like nutso fucko.
Yeah,
But
yeah. And so when we talk about the qualities, I wrote these down. But the way I've been thinking about this, kind of as I've been looking at it and as we've been talking about some of this stuff, is I think out of these three that I wrote, I think a good villain has to have two of these three. I think if they only have one, then they're going to be kind of one note. It's not going to work. They could even have all three, but they need at least two of these three. I'll go ahead and read them. A good villain has one, empathetic motivations which happened in their past. The past is long gone, however, and the empathy serves only to draw a contrast between now and then. Number two, a good villain has despicable actions in the now. This demonstrates the extent to which they will go to accomplish their goals. Number three, a good villain has a commitment to their diabolic plans. A villain who relents on their plans may start as a villain, but becomes an anti-hero or goes through a redemption arc. A villain who commits is, to their core, evil. So when I talk about having two of these three, take the Joker, for example. Number two and number three, despicable actions and a commitment to his diabolic plans. That's the definition of him. He's a great villain because he is down to his core those two things, actions and plans. But there's countless villains out there. Ketherick is an example of them who have those empathetic motivations that happened in their past. Like you can understand why he turned away from Selûne and turned to worshiping Shar and then to Merkel and just feels like a pawn of the gods. I think there's a million examples of that, so I won't go into too many others. But like I said, I kind of want to just open this up to you guys, see how you feel about those qualities. Could they be better? What should be added? Yada, yada.
So just for me, I think point number one isn't what makes a good villain. I think what makes a good character, which might happen to be a villain.
I mean, I think that like the second sentence is what like veers them into villainhood, right? Which is like something bad happened to them in the past, but the past was a long time ago, right? And so like that contrast is just there to like kind of serve as a motivation for how they ended up like something bad happened to them, they came across a fork in the road and they took the direction that turned them into a piece of shit, right? So like yes, bad things happening to good or bad characters is like sometimes an important part to flesh them out, but the difference is the direction they took at that fork in the road.
Yeah, like kind of like Thomas said, the contrast is a very important part. Like any good character could just have empathetic motivations. Take like Shadowheart's backstory, for example. But Shadowheart's backstory is not necessarily, unless you're in an evil playthrough, being used to draw contrast to who she is now.
So here's a question I have for you. Um, how would you delineate between two and three? Because to me, two and three are kind of the same thing. Like
Yeah.
they're saying, like you're saying that a villain went from something tragic in their past, they like crossed that Rubicon at some point, and now they do evil shit. And to me, like despicable actions in the now sort of like defines being committed to your like diabolic plans, right? Like they're kind of one and the same.
So I'm I'm glad you asked that because I'm kind of trying to keep this all wrapped around Baldur's Gate 3 for the sake of the podcast. And I think that Ketherick is a perfect example of not having number 3 because that dude is an absolute asshole. But by the time you get to the end, especially like if you do, the off yourself situation, he's clearly not committed. He doesn't care. Like he is just there as a pawn of the gods, a husk of who he was, and he just wants his daughter back. He doesn't really care about the diabolic plans, but he is taking obviously despicable actions, right?
But doesn't he have his own commitment where he's going to betray the other motherfuckers?
I mean, yeah,
I
that is
maybe that's
he
hard
does
to.
say that, but I
He,
think
he says that straight up, yeah.
just I guess just to be clear, Sesh, you know that he's dead, right? Like dead.
Oh yeah, but
Uh,
he says like before you kill him, and he does the fucking villain monologue of like, here's all my
yeah,
fucking plans. He literally like you could be like, so you're gonna betray them, and he just goes, yeah, like so yeah,
yeah, okay, yeah,
yeah,
he does do that.
which I thought was weird and funny and shit. Where it's just like, wow, he's doing like the trope of like literally telling me what's gonna happen, like his whole plans before he's about to fucking die. But yeah, and I thought that was weird. But I think he still has a commitment to the plan. It's just not the plan that the other two have.
I guess that's fair. I guess I'm just looking at like basically the reason I wrote number 3 is because I wanted to delineate between like a character who's empathetic and is taking despicable actions, uh, delineating between an anti-hero or anti-villain and just a straight up villain. I think that what makes you an honest to goodness villain most of the time, and like saying a villain, is going to be not changing, not flinching, staying onto your plans. But let's take Verso for example. I don't know if I would say he has a commitment to his diabolical plans. He kind of flip flops here and there in Acts 2 and 3, but he takes diabolical actions. He erases the entire painting, right?
Yeah, for sure. So my question here is, did you want us to like propose more bullet points to this?
You can. It's up to you. It's open.
So one thing that I think I would add is a good villain has like an aura of inevitability. So like um in two parts. One, that the sense that a conflict with them is totally unavoidable, whether that's because of like their fucking power level or their ideological opposition or their role in the story's center or whatever. And the second part being that if you, as the protagonist or protagonists, don't intervene, then that villain will accomplish their goals in order to like give some sense of like stakes to the story, right? So like you are supposed to be the person intervening and saving the world, right? And without you, the villain would be successful. I think is something that is a good way of setting the stakes, basically.
Yeah, that's fair. I can think of a lot of villains that applies to. Do you think that that's something that a good villain always has to have? Like, is there an example of, like, basically, because I'm still thinking of that, like, 2 out of 3 thing. Is this just fundamentally part of what a good villain is? Or are there good examples of villains where they don't feel inevitable?
So I don't think like here's the way I think about it, right? Like if you have a villain, let's say something bad happened to them. Let's say they're doing something despicable now. Let's say they are committed to their diabolic plan, but who gives a shit because a baby's going to come along and haymaker them and their plans are going to get turned sideways. That's not a good villain. But if the villain is cunning enough, strong enough, powerful enough, whatever, that unless someone more cunning, more powerful, stronger, i.e., you, the protagonist, comes along to like fuck their plans up, that makes them far more compelling because it gives you a sense of like mattering. I'm talking about like as reading a story from like the perspective of the protagonist and like giving a shit about the stakes that the protagonist is involved in, right? Like it makes you as the absorber of the story care more because you know if I fail, then this world or this whatever, this fucking neighborhood, this blade of grass, whatever the target of that villain's ideology is fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And correct me if I might be misunderstanding, but like what I'm trying to clarify, because I completely agree with you 100%, but I'm trying to figure out if that belongs in the definition of what a villain is, like in the top column, or if there are villains that don't feel inevitable but are still good villains.
I struggle to think of a like at least like a capital V villain who is like not like morally gray or whatever. That would not fit that mold. I would
Sure.
be
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd be very open to hearing them though.
yeah, I mean, it's totally okay if not. Like, I'm still gonna add it. I'm just wondering if it's top section or bottom section. What were you trying to say, Sesh?
I was just gonna say, I think a good villain has to have a commitment to their diabolic plan because if they're only despicable now, they're like Shadow the Hedgehog. You know, like they're not going to be the main bad guy, but they might be a bad guy.
What do you say in response to the Verso example?
He's not the main bad guy.
Didn't we,
Renoir is the main
didn't
bad guy.
didn't we like describe him as a villain earlier or no?
You guys brought him up as a villain, but I don't think he's. So. Again, I think that game is like hyper complex and a difficult one to use for like if you're just trying to get broad strokes what a good villain is or has. But yeah, I don't think Verzo is specifically like a villain, especially not for 99% of the game.
I guess like and this is like again totally open to discussion. You might be right. The example I'm thinking of right now is Darth Vader. Darth Vader is a great villain. Maybe you could probably say that yeah, he does have that commitment in the first two movies, but then in the third movie he straight up kills the Emperor, right?
Right.
Would you still say that he has a commitment to diabolical
He's not the
plans?
villain anymore in the third movie is the thing. When he does that turn, he's no longer in like the villain category because the Emperor is the villain of the third movie, basically.
Sure, but I'm looking at like I'm looking at like broad scope. The character as a whole like has these qualities, right?
So wait, so
So
you're
wait,
saying
So would an addendum be that they are a villain while they have a commitment? But then,
yes, exactly.
because I'm
If
reading
they
it
lose
exactly
that
as it is,
commitment,
and
yeah.
I see what Sasha's saying, where if you read it exactly as you've written it, it is mandatory.
Yeah, but
Well,
I think. Sorry, go ahead.
like what I'm trying to say is that once, like for example, in the Darth Vader example, once he does that, it's like Sash said, he's no longer the villain. He's
Mhm.
like a anti-hero or anti-villain or whatever you want to call him. So I would not prescribe him that quality as a character. Period. It's three different movies, so you could say yeah, he's a villain in the first two movies and then an anti-villain or whatever in the third movie. But the character as a whole is an anti-villain because of his final acts.
so are we saying that these qualities are not like fluid then?
What do you mean?
So like I mean, empathetic motivations happening in the past, that's not exactly fluid because that's just history, right? But if we say that, let's say we've got a villain that adheres to 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 3 of these, but then flip flops like Darth Vader does and no longer has the commitment to their diabolic plan primarily because of empathetic motivations that happened in their past. Are we saying that the qualities of this list of good villain traits is fluid or not? Because the way you just described it is like first two movies bad, third movie anti-villain makes it sound like they can be fluid.
I would say they're fluid, but like I'm trying to look at it through the context of the broader story. Like if I'm writing a story and I know exactly what's going to happen with this character, and I say no, he betrays the emperor at the end. I don't have a villain in front of me. I have an anti-villain. So yes, they're fluid in terms of like a movie that you're watching or a game that you're playing. But when you're looking at the character as a whole, I would not say it's fluid. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Like Darth Vader is going to be on Villainpedia. You know,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's basically like, yeah, it's like what Ben said of like you're a villain. I think that commitment to diabolical plans you need to have if you're the main villain, and then if you ever don't have that, you're no longer the main villain. You might be a bad guy, but you're not the bad guy.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
like the
fucking
Emperor is.
Sarava.
Yeah, like the Emperor is the guy with the commitment, right?
Right. Yeah, so I guess the other question is this is are these bullet points saying a good main villain or just a good villain?
I guess I had main villain in mind, but
Yeah,
it
that's
could
what I
be
thought.
both, right?
Because like yeah, if you drop the main, it becomes way more complicated. Because they could even
Because
be like they could even help you out and still be the villain kind of thing.
yeah, for sure. And like, this is again why I'm bringing up the Darth Vader example, because if we're saying he's not the main villain, but he's still a villain, then 2 out of the 3 still apply to him, and that would make him a good villain, even though he's not the main villain.
But
While he's a villain.
yeah, exactly.
Uh,
I think the commitment to diabolic plans is if you're is required if you're the main villain.
I mean, I think he's a villain mostly because of the second. I mean, the first 2 bullet points explain it, right? The second bullet point, he's taking despicable actions. He cuts off Luke's hand. He
Yeah,
kills what's his tits, and the
he has like
stuff
a
that you see in
commitment
the
to being
prequel is a.
evil. Yeah, I think he's definitely a good villain for sure.
Yeah, he's fucking Darth Vader. Of course he's a good villain.
But he's not like a cut and dry like always the villain. Yeah.
Okay, we don't have to belabor this too much longer unless you guys have more you want to add to it.
No, I think it's an interesting debate.
Yeah.
I feel like good villains do have like significantly more than that, and I also don't think that they necessarily have to adhere to like a 2 out of 3 rule or whatever. I think that these are like broad characteristics of something that can make a good villain, but I don't think it's like axiomatic, which I don't think is what you were trying to like do necessarily, but
Yeah, I was just trying to like broad scope think of as many villains as I could, and at least when I wrote it down, I couldn't think of anywhere at least 2 of these did not apply to a good villain. Is all I was going for. Anyway,
Yeah.
I,
To clarify my own viewpoint, I like antagonists more than I like villains. Like I think Nier Automata has more of an antagonist than it does a villain and things like that. Same with like Claire Obscure. And so that's why like I don't and because like when I think of like a good character, it's like a character that like you like and like resonates with you and shit like that, right? Which is kind of hard to get with like a villain, so it's like a different kind of thing. That's why for me villains just serve the protagonist to get better.
sure. All right. Do you guys want to move into the awards before we wrap up this second 4-hour episode with our ratings?
Yeah.
yeah.
I kind of thought we did these already, but we can. I kind of like already said my answers for these.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to spend a lot of time on it. Is there any that you guys just wanted to touch on outside of what we already brought up?
Oh, the
I guess I did one
awards.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, like
For
we pretty
best
much
and
already.
you
Go
can
ahead.
go.
No, I was just gonna say we pretty much already touched on best performance. We didn't really touch on best NPC, I guess. Who was your guys' favorite in Act Two?
Yeah, that's the only one I was going to answer because it was the only one we didn't go through in at least detail, and I put it at Raphael because where he's placed. Well, it's kind of weird because in a good playthrough you see a little bit more of him. I didn't see him at Last Light because I'm doing evil playthrough because Mole's dead, but I did see him near the Gauntlet of Shar, and the way that he acts as like kind of like connective tissue between the main quest and Asterion and Shadowheart's like personal quests. Well, I guess more so Asterion. I thought he was well placed, and it's Raphael. He's like I don't know. He's just a character that's hard to hate. So, in my opinion, well,
Yeah,
hard to hate. Like he's easy to hate because he's a villain, but he's hard to hate because he's cool.
I changed my
yeah.
best performance answer to Raphael.
That's fair.
My favorite NPC was definitely Night Song for reasons I said earlier.
Best performance, Shadowheart. I want to say not close, but that's not true.
I can see that. Like, because I never did the Shadowheart romance, but even like when you talk to her in camp, she has more lines than like everybody.
Yeah, it's crazy how many fucking lines. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jennifer English getting her paycheck.
Yeah, she said she like was doing voice acting for that game for 4 fucking years. Like she would just constantly come back and do like more and
Jesus.
more recording. Fucking nuts.
Man, that is insane. Best NPC, I struggle with that one. I think I'm just gonna copy Ben and say Raphael because Raphael is fucking goated, and I have
Yeah.
nothing to add to what Ben said.
For what it's worth, I originally had Asterion written there, but then I reread it and I was like, NPC, non-playable. Technically, Asterion is playable, so that's why I
Yeah.
changed it to
That's
Raphael.
hilarious.
I almost said Jahira because technically in my
That's
playthrough she
funny.
was not playable because she fucking died.
Somehow she's joined my side, which
Yeah,
kind
she
of
did the same thing for me. She fucking, like watched me like murder Isabel and like kill all of these fucking people in the inn, and then all the shadows pop out, and she's like, well, okay, let's talk about this afterwards." And she casts her fucking AoE ice spell, kills a bunch of shit, and then dies. And I was like, well, that problem took care of itself.
Should have speaked with Dead to taunt her afterwards.
Oh shit! I wish I did that. That would have been fucking awesome.
Do you guys have any like categories here you wanted to do?
I mean, I think I agree with you with like probably Night Song is the best NPC, especially just within like Act 2 confines, because I don't think like Raphael doesn't get enough screen time, at least like compared to what I want him to have. So yeah, I think I like the Night
Yeah.
Song.
To be fair,
I
for
think
us evil playthroughers, we can't say Night Song because she dead.
I think Raphael gets some points because of your gear, to be fair.
Yeah, that part's pretty
True.
cool.
I mean, yeah, he's definitely like there, right? And he plays like chess with Mole, or no, not Mole. Plays chess with whatever the
Ismol.
tiefling. Is it
It's
Mole?
Mole, yeah.
They all fucking
Oh.
plan together.
Oh, speaking of your gear, Sesh, did you actually figure out the like? I don't want to say it's the intended way, but the way to like solve his thing.
Solve his thing.
Yeah, because
he stabbed himself.
I think it's really cool. I didn't know about this until like my fucking third or fourth playthrough, but there's a reason that his contract with Raphael isn't fulfilled, right? Because like all the shit you tell him, you're just like straight up lying to him. It's not like that's not actually fulfilling his contract. Raphael understood that he wanted the Dark Justiciar is dead, and there is another Dark Justiciar in the Gauntlet of Shar, and it's the rats.
Oh, that makes
Yeah.
The rats are just one guy too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he like fucking like split his mind into all the
Yeah.
different rats.
That shit was cool as fuck.
Oh
I
wait, oh
forgot
you did
about
find that
until
part
you
though?
mentioned it. Yeah, because I talked to all the rats and stuff, and I don't remember if they tell you or like you figure it out, but like yeah, I know that's in my head,
Oh.
and yeah, it's cool as fuck.
Yeah, because you do all of the speak with animals stuff. Yeah, if you had
Yep.
reversed those interactions and you killed the rats and then talked to your gear, you would have solved his contract.
Oh shit, that's crazy.
Yeah, I've actually never done that before. I've always just killed him.
Holy shit! And then he
But
could just leave.
You get rewarded for it, and that's all I'll say.
Oh
Because yeah,
Yeah.
because
there's
some
Act
shit
3
goes
stuff.
down. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did learn something new this playthrough about your gear. So, like, I was always under the impression that if you wanted to do that suicide kill, that you'd have to pass that. I think it's like a what kind of check is it? It's like investigation or
I don't remember. Yeah,
it's pretty
I think
high,
it's
and
charisma. I
it's
think
something.
charisma's involved because I
Yeah,
crushed it with like a 28.
I'm not talking about the check that you roll for. There's like a passive check like during the dialogue
Oh
where and in the
yeah,
upper
yeah,
left
yeah.
corner, if it says failed, then
yeah.
you have to save scum or you can't get that resolution to the quest. Except I found out in this playthrough that if the character you engage that cutscene with is a warlock, then your
Yep,
patron will literally just do it for you and convince Jurgir to kill himself, and you
yep.
just bypass all that bullshit.
Oh, that's crazy.
And actually, I can actually say this spoiler free too. If you do the thing where you like complete your gear's contract or whatever, he joins your camp. I can say that.
What? I did not know that. I
Yeah.
did not know that.
That's
I
fucking
didn't know that
nuts.
either. What the hell?
It might be like temporarily. I don't know how long it happens for, but there is definitely a time when he is in your camp.
Also, I'm pissed that fucking Blue Titty Devil Lady didn't join my camp when I rescued her from the pod.
Oh, true.
Yeah, her not being
Oh.
a recruitable
she-
character is a fucking L.
No, you know
big
what's an
L.
L? She wasn't in Act 2 at all for the evil playthrough because Will went away. She wasn't in that
Oh
pod.
yeah, in my playthrough, I am in the beginning of Act 3. I have not seen Mizora once.
I didn't even think
That's
about
crazy.
that. That kind of sucks. 'Cause I was excited for her
Yeah.
interaction with the evil playthrough, but I don't know if she's gonna be there.
That's funny.
I think evil playthrough where you tell Will to give in to all of his temptations is pretty sick. If you
Yeah,
don't
but
purge the camp.
okay, well that's the problem.
She has to show up if you do the Duke shit, right? I would assume she shows up at some point during all
Yeah,
that.
but
No, I
Will
don't think she
is
does.
not there.
Will's not there. Yeah,
Really? She won't even show up to like fuck you at the end of that quest?
I don't think so.
That's
I could be wrong,
crazy.
but
You'll
I don't
find
think
out.
she would.
Well, I guess she only
True.
does that because of the contract or whatever.
Yeah,
That's fucking
Anyway.
crazy.
yeah, that shit's wild. Wait, have any of you ever actually killed Mizora in that pod too?
I know what happens. It's very bad for Will.
Yeah, very bad for Will, but you know what? You get a sick ass rapier out of it. So
Wait, you do? I
Does-
never knew that.
Does
yeah.
Will just like burst into flames or something?
Oh yeah, he goes straight to fucking Avernus.
Yeah, he gets condemned to the blood war as like a literal like booger.
Fuck, I should have done
Yeah.
that. Does that just happen like immediately?
Oh yeah, literally right then and there.
Like if he's in camp, he's gone. Next time you go to camp, he's gone.
Yeah, if he's in your party, there is no like cut back to gameplay. It is a continuous cutscene, and he is in hell now.
Damn. But you get to see him go to hell. It's not like he just
Yeah,
poops.
yeah.
Okay.
That's the part you was like, it's not worth it unless I can see that.
You just get this sound that goes.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, let's do our awards. Or sorry, not awards, ratings. Yeah. Why don't we start with Sesh? I'm always curious on
yeah.
Sesh's score.
Yeah, so for me, I mean, so a lot of the things that I like about Act 1 is still there in Act 2, and that is Karlach and Shadowheart, and obviously Shadowheart got a little bit of an expansion, but because of like the whole I don't like the fucking like the environment or like anything like that, and like Ketherick kind of was cool, but like didn't really do a whole lot, and then like I don't give a fuck about the villains. I think I kind of had just like a lower overall experience, and also I didn't like the Emperor is technically Act 2, right?
No.
Apparently,
That's-
wait.
Yeah,
What is
so
it?
I think he's technically Act 2, but I think we think of him as Act 3 because of where the game draws the
Yeah.
line for Act 3. So I won't mention the Emperor then. But yeah, I don't like the setting or like anything like that, and then like the side quests and everything were kind of bad. But like the thing that I will say is the game is still like an engineering marvel in terms of just like the paths and everything, which is like fucking ridiculous. But yeah, for me, I think this is definitely a little bit of a step down from Act 1, so I'm at a 7.5.
Oh my god! Fuck.
Oh, yeah, my guess is wrong.
God damn it! I even guessed the lowest, and I was still wrong.
I definitely didn't expect it to be that much lower. I thought
Full
an 8
disclosure-
would have been reasonable, but
I just thought it was like a little like bland almost in terms of like story and stuff because like I don't know, it's yeah, it just kind of feels like because they didn't develop anything in Act 1, I don't give a fuck in Act 2, so I'm hoping in Act 3 they kind of fix
yeah.
that.
I mean, I'll kind of follow up with that because I feel like it's hard to remember because it was so long ago, but I feel like my first impression of Act 2 and my first playthrough also wasn't good. Like there are a lot of those frustrations that like Thomas was describing with the lantern and the shadow curse, and it's kind of just annoying and nothing else. And I don't know if like a lot of the like tones and the way the story variations can play out really functions that well in a first playthrough. However, and this might just be because of the amount of times I've played through Act 1 at this point, Act 2 is just so much fun to me. Like, you know how to get through all these encounters easily. You know about the fairy. You can get through all of these encounters by telling him to kill himself if you want, or you can fight him if you feel like it. I love Ketherick as a villain. I think that like the entire ending sequence, even if it is a little bit out of nowhere, is fucking awesome. And just that like surprise on my face in my first playthrough where I was like, oh my god, this game still isn't anywhere close to done. There's like 3 more fucking villains that we need to take out now. Oh Jesus. I think that like all of that, and like obviously the quality with the Gauntlet of Shar, all of everything with the companions, there's not a bad thing to say about the companions. I think I even though there are those criticisms that I have from my first experience, I think that over time, comparatively to Act 1, all of those have just gone away from me, and you get the player power in Act 2, and it's just pure fun to me. It's like, getting to a playground and getting the swing set, and, you just get to have fun. And for that reason, you have not swayed me away from a 10 out of 10.
Full disclosure,
Tom went 9?
I
You big
rated
dude.
the same number for everybody because I thought it was the safest number, 9.5, because we're
Oh,
doing the
yeah.
0.5 differential. I just put that for everybody.
I mean,
Obviously, it failed for Sesh, but
I was gonna
everyone
say
else.
that's the safest if you're me, because I don't have to vote for me.
That's fair.
Were you a 10? You weren't a 10 in Act 1, were you, Seth?
No, I was not.
Okay. I wonder how much of that is how much you fucking played Act 1 and kind of got numb to it.
I mean, that's probably fair. Why did I lower my score in Act 1? What was it?
I can't remember.
I don't remember either. But yeah, I mean, Act 3 is going to be a 10 out of 10 too. There you go. Anyway, it's just impossible for me not to. Like, I have too many like memories of like me and Cass bonding over the game and shit like that. It's just inescapable.
I definitely understand how you could easily be a 10 for this game for sure. There's just a lot of things that like aren't my vibe for, especially with Act 2. Like there's a lot of things with Act 2 that aren't the vibe of me. And then just my lack of D&D experience, I think, really like holds me back from really liking some of that wonder.
Yeah, I think that's not helping, but I don't know. I think we could absolutely be wrong because I think we were all wrong about Act 2 clearly, but I think Act 3 will click for you, but we'll see. Ben,
I think
you wanna go
so.
next?
I could tell you just off of like the first hour and a half-ish I've played, it's much better than Act 2.
Yeah,
Go
the
ahead,
city
Ben.
setting seems your thing. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. You're up, Ben.
Yeah, similar to Seth, it's got to be a 10 for me. Like, there are very few games. Well, so how do I explain this? Like back when I was younger, I used to be able to play like certain games like over and over and over and over again, like in an embarrassing fashion. Like there's a game called Full Throttle, which was like a LucasArts
Fuck yeah.
click and point adventure game. Me and my sisters used to literally beat that game and then beat it again the next day, and then like we would just beat it over like once a day. Like no normal
Yeah.
person would ever do that, but we did it. I can't do that like at 38 years of age. But like this game, this is the fifth time I'm playing it. Yeah, fifth time. And I still have as much fun as I did the first time. And I feel like regardless how many flaws I can point out, which we've already have plenty of times through not just this podcast but the last one too, but like it doesn't matter. It's like the fact that I can even play a game like this just over and over again and I still want to do it, it's got to be a 10. Just like,
I
yeah.
I agree with you in that I think this might be one of the best multiple playthrough design games, period, and probably will be for like the next 5 to 10 years until someone really does some crazy shit. I think that's where the game
Yeah.
like super shines.
Yeah, like I think that was where I was, where like I was obviously wowed my first playthrough, but it all of it really only clicks after your first playthrough and you do
Yeah.
another one, which is a lot to ask. Just put 200 hours in the game and then it's good. I promise, right? Like, all right, Thomas, you're up.
Act 2 is a complex beast. I think it's flawed in some ways, but it's funny because the way that Act 2 is flawed is in ways that Act 1 is not flawed in, and the areas that Act 2 excels in is the ways that Act 1 is flawed in. So they fit together really well to kind of balance out each other's like strengths and weaknesses. And taken together, this is not my rating, but taken together, I think Acts 1 and 2 combined are easy 10 out of 10. But again, Act 2 in a vacuum is a bit flawed. And while I think Act 2 is a terrible bridge from Act 1, uh, scope creep, it's an incredible bridge into Act 3. So even though the pacing isn't very good, it sets up what's to come very, 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 very well. There's some like annoying aspects to it as well, but where Act 2 is good, it's fucking great. So, like, Gauntlet of Shar might honestly be one of my favorite dungeons in any game ever. Period. Full stop. Doesn't matter what the fuck the game is, Gauntlet of Shar it will always be in the discussion for best dungeon in any RPG. Everything that goes on at Last Light Inn and Moonrise Towers is like just very, very engaging, and it feels very like impactful to the narrative in a way that really makes you feel the weight of what is finally going on in the story, even though it takes a long ass time to get there and it kind of comes out of nowhere. When it punches fucking hard. Um, all of the boss fights in Act Two, which we didn't talk at length about all of the boss fights, but in my opinion, every single boss fight in Act 2, fucking amazing. Doesn't matter who it is, where it is, what the scenario was. Balthazar in the Shadowfell is a 10 out of 10 fight. Ketheric on the roof of Moonrise Tower is a 10 out of 10 fight. The Apostle Merkel fight, 10 out of 10. Even the fucking Doctor, even though I never fought that guy because the first time I tried, he whooped my ass, and so I just killed him through dialogues. Still, 10 out of 10. Every boss fight is fucking unique. It's really fun. And again, the Merkel fight is so fucking awesome, and it just kind of puts a bow on the entire thing. So, when I played this game the first time, Act 2 was where this game really started to like. I started to get it, right? Like, I liked Act 1, but Act 2 is where I was like, oh, okay. Like, this game is gonna be this, right? So again, despite its flaws, it's still so fucking good at what it's good at. It's got to be a 9.5 or an 8.99, just to throw off your guys' guesses.
What? How did you go from 9.5 to 8.99?
I was like, wait a second.
No, I'm kidding. It's 9.5.
Oh, did I nail it? I think I nailed it. That was a hard one too. Everyone nailed it. What the fuck? I guess that
Like
wasn't
I
a
said,
hard
just-
one.
we just
it's
hedged
the
the
safest
9.5.
number to vote
Yeah.
for.
Yeah,
this game.
that's just what you should vote for if like you think that the person really liked it. Just go 9.5.
I think we should do if it's a 10 and you guess the 10, then you get extra point.
I agree. I think that's actually a
But
good
that's
idea.
the only one. Every other direct doesn't matter. It's only the 10 that matters.
That's
And I
kind
guess
of
the
fair.
1. 10 and 1.
Yeah, like with Expedition 33, I don't know if you guys would have put me on a 9.5 for that.
I would have had to have thought about it longer than I did. Which is every time I think you guys think a game's super good, it's just slam 9.5. So, yeah, I think for the fun of it, 1s and 10s get you an extra point.
Have we had
Or
a
rather,
single
just
one yet?
hitting it directly gives you an extra
I was
point.
1.5 on Logic Bomb, so very close.
Oh my
Wait.
god, what would it take?
Wait, what? What was the question? Oh, to
Have we
rate
had a
something a
1?
1? I can't. I'm sure there's a game out there I can think of that I would rate 1, but it's not coming to me right now.
Definitely
One
not
just
a game
has
that we
to-
finished.
It just has to lack any and all like conceivable merit, and I feel like there's very few games that do that, unless it's just like I don't know, fucking what's that guy that shot people in Chicago and then made a duck hunt game? That guy.
Rittenhouse? Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yeah, Kyle Rittenhouse. That guy's Flash game might be a 1 out of 10.
I think any game I would rate a 1 out of 10 is a game that I uninstalled.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like,
Indeed.
the only shot that anything would be close to a 1 is the intermezzo games that would be like, hey, play fucking a stage of this, like Logic Bombs, because we didn't beat that game, right? Or I guess it'd be a game
True.
that we would like fucking pull the plug on and be like, everybody hates this, right? We could stop.
Yeah, true.
Man,
Which would
I
be
think
crazy.
based on Ben's criteria, he might have the longest list of 1 out of 10 of
Oh,
all
yeah.
of us,
Yeah.
multiplied by like
Blueprints
50.
is a 1 out of 10 for Ben, for sure.
Yeah, very true.
I think that's the
And
best
it's
puzzle
funny
game ever
'cause
made.
I bet a lot of those games, if I genuinely gave them a chance, I'd probably like them.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like what if you don't get past that like entrance barrier, it's just instant fucking 1.
Yeah,
Oh,
my,
shit.
so
I
my,
am-
my rationale, I genuinely do have a rationale, is that if you fuck up something that like is so obvious, I
Yeah.
don't trust you to have made the rest of the game correctly.
Okay, you want to? I don't know if this is related to that or not, but I've been thinking about the comment you made about Blueprints' default Unity font as I've been playing Silk Song. And okay, I've spent way too much time looking at this text to verify. I don't think this is true. However, all of the text that pops up in the cutscenes looks a lot like Times New Roman, and that really fucking bugs me.
Let me see if I can find.
Yeah, I'd have to see it to like cast true judgment on it.
It looks a lot like it. The one that didn't look like Times New Roman was a capital U.
Fucking silk slop.
Here. Put it in Silk Song. Is that the font? That's just a
No.
general dialogue
No,
font.
I think that looks
Is that
pretty
not what you
good. That's
mean?
just
That looks like the
No.
Baldur's Gate 3 font.
No, I was thinking of it's like the like fucking text that pops up when you go into like the spidery silk areas, and it's like the thing whispering to you or whatever the fuck. I think.
You mean like when you get a new power and you talk to the doors?
I think so. Yes.
I don't think I have that.
no.
I think the game's
Should-
font fucking owns. I don't know. Not to get on
No,
a tangent about a
I'm-
different game.
I'm only thinking about that specific font. It just I'm not even saying it looks bad. I'm just like, did you really use Times New
Times
Roman?
New
Yeah, it
here?
looks
Roman.
too
There's
vanilla.
I don't think there's a chance that it. Oh wait, no, is it this one?
Yes.
No, really? I think that font looks fine, but that's
Yeah,
just
I
me.
think the font's all.
I'm not-
fucking ownage.
I'm not saying it looks bad. I'm just saying it looks like Times New Roman. Like it might just be Times New Roman, and that would be really funny.
Let's see if Jim
Nah,
can
it's
answer that.
not. It's not. I'm pretty sure it's not.
That would be good stuff, though.
I think there'd be no way
Yeah.
that they would allow that to happen. That'd be so fucked
It would
up.
be so funny.
Yeah, because the logic follows that they would have to like manually choose
Set
Times
it
New
to
Roman.
Times
Like
New Roman.
that's not a default setting. You have to do that yourself.
I'm sure it would be like a thematic thing, like how in Undertale, fucking like Papyrus and Sans talk in
Yeah.
their fonts, right? So there would
Yeah.
have to be like some like stupid ass fucking meaning for why they use Times New Roman specifically.
All right, well, let's go ahead. Oh, I burped in my closeout. Let's go ahead and call that an episode. GG's.
Wait, what are we playing next week?
That's a good question.
Oh,
It's
I thought we were doing-
episode 3.
yeah. Right?
Oh, yeah.
I thought you were asking that so that Seth could do an outro.
Well, yeah, Seth, do an outro, you stupid.
And that was Baldur's Gate 3, Act 2. Next week, we'll be playing Hello Charlotte, Episode 3, as an intermezzo game before we finish up Act 3 of Baldur's Gate 3. That's a lot of threes, and I'm glad you're here with us for them.